guy falls out of the ceiling, pulls a gun out.
And that was the first crime you ever committed in your life?
They start showing up at my job. Where's the money? I'm like, I'll give you money, I'll give you a little bit. I'll give you you better give us something right now. Like, here's $80. $80. I'm like,
tell us about loan sharking.
I turned around, they punched me in the face, took the hot chocolate, threw it on me, started kicking me on the floor right in the bagel store.
You're crazy for this.
This is the bad part. People are gonna not like me after this. I'm sorry.
Bo Joseph dropped out of school to help his family, became a dad at 18, and ended up owing loan sharks hundreds of thousands of dollars. Today, he opens up about how gambling took everything from him and the one confrontation that changed his life forever. Bo, welcome to Locked In. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, this is the second podcast you've ever done in your life.
Yeah. I never listened to one before.
Wait, ever?
No, I haven't even listened to mine. I see the reels. I'll see like the New Heights or some Joe Rogan. I'll see a clip somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's it, yeah.
Yeah, I like watching clips rather than like a full length, although there are some podcasts like I'll listen when I'm walking, like Joe Rogan or Jay Shetty or Diary of a CEO. Those are good like full length ones, something where I can like obtain knowledge from. I don't know if I necessarily listen to podcasts for entertainment. If there's like a celebrity interview that like I'm curious about, then I'll go and listen to that. Or like an actor or something. But otherwise, I'll just watch it for like a motivational type purpose.
Right, yeah. I'm going to start getting into it, especially if I'm going to be on them. I should at least watch my own.
Yeah, tell everyone about your book that's coming out.
Yeah, so thank you. So I wrote a book about my life story. It's called The B Train, An American Loser by Bo Joseph. And I am both of those characters. I am the B Train for a while when things are riding high. Everybody wanted to get on board the B Train. And then I was the American Loser when I really crashed and burned and ruined lots of people's lives and tried my best to ruin my own. So it's a memoir that takes you from beginning to end and how it started and where we are now.
And we'll have that link to the book in the description of this episode.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It comes out today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And this episode will be out Sunday. So today is Friday, so this will be out Sunday.
Well, perfect
yeah, ever
timing.
since I got back from doing the Mr. Beast video, I don't have really a back catalog anymore, so episodes come out a lot quicker. Especially like last week when I was away and I had to cancel some episodes yesterday and reschedule them because I was sick. I don't have a back catalog anymore, so it's quick turnaround time. But I do all my own editing still. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, so I'm able to turn it around quickly. Like I'll have this episode done 30 minutes after we finish recording, which is pretty cool.
That's great. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. I'm so excited.
I'm able to put it together, make the clips, have it all uploaded, good to go, and then I send the thumbnails, like the photos we took, to these guys in Siberia who do the actual thumbnail. It's a really cool process.
Yeah.
And then I get it up very quickly, whereas like if I had an editing team or someone I had to send it up, it would take 2 hours to upload the footage to whoever, put it in a Google Drive, then re-download it once it was done, and it would be a multiple day thing, and you're waiting for someone else.
Yeah, that's great that you keep control of your own, and you keep control of your content too. So.
Yeah, I kind of like being in control of it. It's way easier. Where'd you grow up, Bo?
So I grew up in Brooklyn, born and raised in Brooklyn, and then early teens moved to Staten Island. Spent most of my life in Staten Island, and then on to Jersey. Now here I am in Connecticut.
What was your upbringing like?
So, I had a good upbringing in the beginning. I have good parents. They're really good people. But, they didn't always see eye to eye. They broke up and got back together a lot, which made it a little bit difficult at times. We had to move back in with my grandparents every time they would break up, and that really wasn't a good scene. My grandfather was an alcoholic. He was abusive to my grandma. So every time my parents would break up, it was like, oh, no, we got to go back there, and, glasses shattering and people crying. So, that part was rough. When my parents were together, things were good. Me and my brother and sister were happy. We lived a good life, but the inconsistency of the breaking up and getting back is what really got things off the rails for a while.
What did your parents do for work?
Well, they're both retired now. My dad was a warehouse supervisor, dispatcher. He had a nice job. He kind of ran things for them for most of his career. My mom grew up in the accounting industry, working in Manhattan, commuting to and from work every day, this whole city bus thing. And so she built a nice career for herself. They both just recently retired about a year ago.
So would you say you guys struggled or didn't struggle growing up?
We didn't struggle. We found a way. I guess we'll get to a little bit later, but my dad left for a long period of time. That was a little bit rough. I dropped out of school, tried to pitch in and help out around the house, but never really struggled. Always kind of middle class, lived in good neighborhoods, went to good schools, and found a way. My mom worked hard, I worked hard, and we tried not to let what was going on around us, get in the way.
What were some values they taught you?
My work ethic for sure I got from both my parents. I'm a bit of a workaholic now, up 3:30, 4 o'clock every day. Got home around 9 o'clock last night. So they definitely taught me the importance of work ethic. And it sounds crazy, especially when you read the book and you hear the story, but I did get a lot of family values from them. Even though they were breaking up and, my dad with different girlfriends and, looking at it from a distance, you would say, what are you talking about? But we did grow up with a really tight-knit family. My aunts and uncles, my cousins, even now with my siblings, nieces and nephews, we are very, very tight. We get together very often. So I would say I got my family values from them and my work ethic.
What do you think was the worst thing that happened to you in your childhood?
The worst thing that happened, I guess the worst decision I made probably was dropping out of school. I was 15 years old, 99 average on a roll. The kid in class always raising his hands, having all the answers, getting 100 on every test. I really felt I had a bright future ahead of me if I would have just stayed the course. And then, just abruptly dropping out of school, just deciding, okay, I'm not going back to school tomorrow. Really set me on the path. Again, I'm not blaming anybody. It's my own fault. I made my own decisions. But that was the moment that really altered the course of my life.
And that was all because your dad left?
Yeah, because he left. Again, I'm not blaming him, but, my mom was struggling. We needed the income. I was smart. I was strong. I was able-bodied. And I didn't want her to lose her house. I didn't want us to go back to live with my grandparents. So, I was the man of the house. I was the oldest brother. And, again, 15 years old, I felt like I was 25. And I said, I got this.
Was your mom okay with you dropping out to support the family?
No, not at all. But I pretty much told her she didn't have a choice. It was one of those, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. You can sign me out of school. And I had a girlfriend at the time whose father was willing to let me work under someone else's ID because you had to be 18 to work there. He understood our situation. He knew the kind of guy I was. He knew my parents were, breaking up. So he offered me an opportunity. I said, I'm going to go to work. So either I'm going to do it illegally and get in trouble from school and have the truant officers looking for me, or you're going to sign me out. I pretty much told her, I will figure it out. Just trust me on this one. And it was a hard sell. It wasn't as easy as just, I'm telling you, that was like the short version. It was weeks of that. But I just stopped going to school. And, I was doing other things along the way. I was playing handball for money. I was pretty athletic, pretty good at handball. It's funny thinking about it now, but I thought that was my way out. I'm like, I'm just going to play handball. I'm going to beat these guys every day and, $5, $10 a game. I'll be just fine. But so I stopped going to school. I was playing handball all day. And then, the calls were coming, the letters were coming. She said, okay, you win. I'll come sign you out. So
do you think you wanted to quit school to actually support the family, or because you had bigger ambitions at the time and you didn't really necessarily care for school?
I cared for school. I'm very competitive. I liked being the smartest kid in the class. I liked people knowing that. I liked getting the high grades and all the scores. So I didn't dislike school, but I was ready to go to work. I felt like I wasn't getting anything else out of school. I was a sophomore in high school. So, theoretically there was 2 years left. I felt I had enough. I'll never forget, I was sitting in math class and we were doing, adding shapes and stuff. I'm like, what am I going to do with this stuff? I could be working right now. And I always worked. I was a newspaper boy since I was a little boy. I worked on the ice cream truck at 10, 11 years old. The ice cream truck came to town one day and someone ordered a bunch of stuff and the guy gave her the wrong amount. He was overcharging her. I said, no, it's whatever. It's not $10.15, it's $9.25. He said, no. And he added up. He says, oh, wow, it was pretty good. And then he did the next person. He was like, okay, how much is their stuff? So I told him, he's like, you want a job, kid? I'm like, I'll ask my mom. He's like, I don't pay you in cash. I'll pay you in ice cream. He's like, Ma, can I work in the ice cream truck? And she's like, yeah, sure. And every day I came home with a little box of ice cream for us. So I've always worked. I always had good work ethic. I always liked making money. And I just felt I was ready. And having the connection where I was going to have a real job, working in a real place. It was funny, minimum wage back then was $4.25 an hour. And I was like, so you tell me I'm going to work all day and make $30 instead of sitting in school all day? I'll make $150 by the end of the week instead of sitting here. Let's do it. What am I wasting my time here for?
Yeah, it must have been a lot of pressure, though, to having to support your family at that age.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. My mom was working, so she was the main breadwinner. Part of it was, too, that my dad just left. He didn't do it the right way. So when he left, he just didn't come home from work one day, which was not like him. They would break up, and he would come home late, and he would pretend that he has like a long weekend out with the guys, but he was really somewhere else. So that was the usual thing with him. He never came home. Like there was always they'd have a big fight, they'd scream and yell at each other. She'd run in the room crying. He'd take his shit and leave. So that was the breakups they'd had throughout my upbringing. He never didn't come home. He was responsible. He always put the food on the table. His paycheck always came home. Even when he had girls on the side, he took care of the family. And then just not coming home one day, like, what the hell? And then she called work, and one of his friends made up a story. Oh, he was in a terrible accident, and his car was demolished, and we haven't seen him. We don't know where he is. So my mom's like calling hospitals. So he did it pretty terribly. That's why everything was so kind of abrupt. So, once she found out that he actually left, he was with another woman. They were having a baby, which is kind of why he left. He got the girl pregnant. He was like, wanted to start his life over again. I wanted to contribute, and I didn't want her to go after him. She was saying, "Oh, I'm going to get a lawyer. He's got to pay child support. We can get him." Her friends are talking to her. Her relatives are talking to her. Like, you can have him arrested. He's got to pay for these kids. It's not your problem. And I loved my dad. Like, he was my best friend, and I didn't want him getting arrested. I'm like, okay, and in a weird kind of way, I understood why he left. He and I. Again, I was a little boy, maybe 8, 9 years old. He one time brought me to a park to meet one of his girlfriends. I didn't know at the time what it was. I kind of figured it out later. And, he wasn't in love anymore. He was 18 years old when they had me. I was supposed to be an abortion. They weren't supposed to have me. My mom was going to have the abortion, like on her way there. And he last minute said, fuck it, let's figure this out. He was an 18-year-old. His dad left at a young age. He supported his 7 brothers and sisters and his mom. And he was like, fuck, like, is this my life? Like, I don't want this to be in my life. And he was out, he was dating, and he wanted to leave. I understood. I didn't like it. It's my dad. I want him home. I don't like my mom crying. But I didn't really hold a grudge in some weird way. I felt like, okay, guys, I wish you would have done it better. I wish you would have kind of been man enough to say, hey, I'm not happy, I'm leaving, let's figure this shit out, instead of disappearing on us. But I didn't want him to get arrested. So in the beginning, when I was starting to play handball, I told her my dad was giving me money. I'm like, hey, one of his friends called me and said, he's been in touch with dad, and he's really sorry. He kind of found somebody else, but he's going to start giving us money. But I hadn't heard from him. I didn't talk to his friend. And I was bringing home handball money, saying, oh. But again, as a kid, I didn't think, so like, what do you mean? You know where dad is? Where is he? Maybe we can just talk to him. Maybe he'll come home. Give me his number. Let me know when you're going to go meet him. And so I'm like, well, I'm not meeting him. I'm meeting his friend, and his friend's meeting him, and dad don't want us to know where he is. And so that was really why I started doing it, was I didn't want him to get in trouble. I didn't want us to lose the house. So I figured, okay, I can handle both of these things myself. That's sort of how the whole thing started.
Did your feelings change towards your dad when he left?
They changed when I found him. Back then, again, there's no Googles, none of that stuff. But the phone bills used to get mailed to the house. I used to have every phone number that people would call. And I remember that every time my mom would go in the shower, my dad would go in the kitchen, the little rotary phone, and he'd be on the phone whispering the whole time. As soon as the water would stop, he'd hang up. He'd come back in and pretend like he was watching TV. So I knew, and again, I'm 15. I'm not as sophisticated as I I'm now, not that I'm much more sophisticated. But so my mom had this little brown tin box that she used to keep every bill in. She's super, super organized. So I used to pull out the phone bills at night, and then I knew all my relatives' numbers. So every once in a while, back then, again, it's not cell phone. You're not calling 100 people when you're home. You're calling your sister, your mom. So any number I didn't recognize, I would call, and I would ask for him. And we had the same name. So I'd be like, oh, hey, can I please speak to Bo? Is Bo there? Can I speak to Bo? Sorry, wrong number. Sorry, wrong number. This went on for months and months. And then finally one day, I'm like, hey, can I speak to Bo? And it's like, sure, who's calling? I'm like, oh, it's his friend from work. So I'm like, could it really be him? And it was like, hey, hon, someone from work. And he has this thing, my dad, the way he answers the phone, he's always like, yellow. He doesn't say hello. I was like, yellow. So I heard that, and I was like, son of a bitch. Now, mind you, I hadn't seen him. It's probably been 5, 6 months. My mom's crying herself to sleep every night. I don't blame him. I've never blamed them for me dropping out. Like, I made the decision myself. Many people's parents break up and they don't drop out of school. So it's not like I'm this big victim. Like, oh, I didn't have to do it. My mom probably would have figured it out. Probably would have downsized the house. Like, we've always figured it out. So I don't hold them accountable for that. But we were struggling, and he had just taught my mom how to drive before he left. So he was planning it. He taught me how to drive at 14. I was 14 years old driving myself to school, picking my friends up and driving us to school. We go to the bus stop, hey, hop in. Had a little like punch buggy, like a little Volkswagen Beetle, had no floor. You know, we'd go over a puddle, we'd get wet. So I was picking my friends up. I'm like, oh, my dad's so cool. He taught me how to drive. My mom didn't know how to drive, so he taught her how to drive. And he had got her a new car. It was like the first new car we ever really had. And that was the car he took to work that day. So he took the new car. So then, anyway, so I talked to him. I'm like, he answered the phone. He's like, yellow. So I'm like, all right, that's him. I hung up the phone. And then used to be able to do like a reverse lookup then with a phone number. So you put in the phone number, it would give you an address. So I did that. And I was like, okay. I had the address where he lived. So I went and told my mother. I said, hey, I found Dad. I know where he lives. I know it's the address. You want to go to the house? And she was very apprehensive at first. My mom's kind of, really timid, really just whatever. So I said, let's fucking go. So again, MapQuest, I do it, and here I am, this young kid, and and as far as in Long Island, it was like an hour and a half drive, and we follow the map, and we get there, and it was a nice house, and we're sitting across the street, just like trying to work up the courage to go knock on the door. And all of a sudden, like this young teenage girl comes, like driving my mom's car and pulls into the driveway and gets out and gets a car. I'm like, fucking son of a bitch. So I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'm going. So I go, knock on the door. This blonde lady answers the door. She's holding a baby, has my dad's big, beautiful eyes. So my dad has these big, beautiful blue eyes. And I look just like my dad, but I always wished I had his eyes. And I see this kid, I'm like, this motherfucker, I can't believe it. I'm like, it has to be my dad's kid, and like he got my dad's eyes. So, I'm annoyed about the car. I'm annoyed that he disappeared. I'm annoyed that now he has a kid, and it was a boy, and I'm his boy, and so now now my balls are coming out kind of. Now I'm like, fuck this guy. So that was my first time where I was like, fuck him. And then she answers like, hey, is Bo here? She's like, yeah, he's here. I said, I'm his friend from work. He's expecting me. And then, she calls him, and he's wearing a bathrobe. She was wearing a bathrobe. Inside of the house was so beautiful, like so much nicer than mine. This lady was younger than my mom, and he comes walking over, and he looks at me, and he's like shaking his head, and he's like, only you, man. Like, only you. And that's what I pretty much told him. I said, Dad, we don't want you back. We don't need you back. Like, I got this. It's my family now. You don't want us, fine. We don't want you either. But you're going to pay for your fucking kids. Like, this girl's driving mom's car. You got this nice house. I see you have a nice new baby. I'm like, what's the baby's name? I thought maybe because, me and him had the same name. So he told me the baby's name. It wasn't me. And I said, you're going to start paying for us. You can clearly afford it. He says, you're right. You're 100% right. I'll make it right. And to his credit, I guess, he started, making child support payments, and things really started getting better. This was probably about like a year or so after he left. Like, it wasn't like right away. It's probably like a year and a half or so after he left. So I'm like 16 and a half, going on like 17 years old at this point.
Do you end up going back to high school, or?
No. I was working. I got promoted a couple times pretty quickly. I've always been a very good worker. And then, so you fast forward another year, I have a girlfriend, and I get her pregnant the way my dad got my mom pregnant. And so now I'm 18, and there was no way I was having that kid. I didn't know my story. I didn't know that my mom was literally at the abortion place, ready to get rid of me until my dad came in. And like I told you earlier, her dad was an alcoholic. Again, my grandfather was a wonderful man, went to the war, saw some terrible outlandish shit, came home, started drinking himself, nightmares, that whole thing, and just became a different person. But he was a nut. So, my girlfriend was pregnant, and I was I'm trying to help my mom. I had a couple different girlfriends. Like, I wasn't like the steady boyfriend type. I was working, doing my thing. I had this fake ID. So I talk about it in the book. I actually stole my uncle's ID. We look similar, my mother's brother. He's 8 years older. So when I was 15, everyone thought I was 23. And it's funny, his name is Caesar. So all my ID was Caesar. My paycheck was Caesar. The the boss was my girlfriend's dad. Not this girl, my ex-girlfriend's dad. The one who got me the job, and he used to cash my check for me in the store out of the register because I couldn't cash it. It wasn't my name, so he really helped me out a lot. And so all the crew in the store were like, hey, let's go out, let's party. You want to come out with us? But I'm like this 15-year-old kid, but I'm like, I had this idea, so I'm like, sure. And I started drinking really good and like, keeping up with everybody and doing shots and stuff. We're doing like arm wrestling contests. And it was funny because the bartender would say, oh, let me see your ID. So they'd be yelling, Caesar, one more. So then the team knew. At work, they called me Bo. But they didn't even know why. I told them like Caesar's my middle name or something. So we'd be out and like literally I'd be having drinking contests and the whole bar would be going, Caesar, Caesar. And I'm there just chugging this stuff. So, that whole thing. So I had that whole lifestyle going on where, I was messing around with every girl at work. I'm like 15, 16 years old, messing with like 20-year-old college chicks that think I'm 23 years old. So I was happy in my social life. I was not looking to settle down at all. And then I was only with this girl for 2 months. We met in May. I remember getting her pregnant at the 4th of July party. Like I remember, we kind of snuck away. We're at someone's house. We're fooling around. And, it was about that time. And she's like, don't stop. And I'm like, okay, fine. I won't stop. And I'm like, what are the odds? And then a couple of weeks later, it's like, hey, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, well, there's no way we're having this kid. She's like, no, I know. And but it was weighing on me a little bit. My mom was like, there's something on your mind. So I told her. And that's when she told me like, hey, have a seat. You were this close to not being here either. She said, I was 18 with your father. And she was like, I had grandpa. She said, there was no chance. Grandpa would have killed your father. He would have killed us both dead. So we thought there was no way. Your dad was supporting his brothers and sisters. And look at you. You're smart. You're this. You're such a, you should give this kid a chance. And she said, plus, you're really all over the place. You have a different girl all the time. You're drinking, you're partying. I think you need to settle down. You really got off track these last few years. I think this will be good for you. And she talked me into it somehow. And I liked the girl. She was a really nice girl. She wasn't like the other girls that I was out, I was real party chicks. She was, good girl, raised nice, didn't like to go out, wife material. So I said, okay. So I talked to her and said, hey, you want to try and give this thing a shot? Maybe we can do it. And she's like, yeah, sure, Her dad was very strict. They were from Italy. So I had to go talk to her dad. He kicked her out of the house. She moved in with me and my mom. Like, they didn't talk to us for months, her parents. So that's kind of how I got into this whole, and now I'm 18, about to have a kid of my own. And, so that's how that whole thing kind of came together.
How do you feel about that decision now, looking back on it? Are you happy that your mom convinced you?
Well, I wouldn't trade my daughter for anything. I have 3 beautiful grandkids, from her. And, despite all the terrible things that I went through, I'm here now. So I am like a big believer, like that butterfly effect. And I think if one thing along the way would have, like you met my wife, the love of my life. I think she's the most perfect woman God ever created. And if I didn't go through all that stuff, she wouldn't be here. Her and I have 2 beautiful babies together. So I don't regret any of it. I wouldn't advise it. I would try to, if my kids came to me in the same situation, I would strongly suggest that they, they don't have the baby and they move forward and, build their life up first. Because my 2 kids didn't get the best version of me. My first 2 kids from my wife, they got the bad version. They don't know what it's like to have a good dad. And that was one of my fears with my daughter is, like, I don't want her finding somebody like me. I wouldn't mind her finding somebody like me today. I would want her finding someone like, 18 to 25-year-old me. But that's all she knows. That's the only male figure she had in her life. So, but luckily she's got an amazing husband. I love the guy to death. Way better husband and father than I ever was, thank God. But I don't regret it. I don't regret it. I wonder what my life would have been like. I wondered the career I could have had. I have a high opinion of myself. I think that I can accomplish anything if I set my mind to it. And then, that bad decision led to so many other, I take it back. It's not a bad decision. Baby daddy loves you. You're not a bad decision. I love you with all my heart. But
maybe a bad decision at the time.
At the time, I knew her mom for 2 months. We had nothing in common. Her family hated me. I was, I didn't have my dad around. I was trying to take care of my parents. I was with a bunch of different girls. I was in that phase of my life. I didn't go to college. Like, those are like my college years of just drinking and partying and doing stuff. So I should not have brought a baby into the world like that. And my daughter didn't, she suffered as a result. She suffered from me and my wife breaking up the way my parents did. Me punching holes in the wall, and
So if your child got pregnant at 18, would you make that same decision to give your child that advice like your parents did and their parents did?
No, I would tell them to get rid of the baby. I would definitely tell them that you're making a big. It took me 20 years to recover from all this stuff. 20 years and the carnage I left behind me. I wouldn't want that for them. I would want them to get their stuff together, build a foundation, welcome a baby in, have a steady relationship with your partner. That's what I would want for them. So that would be the advice I would give them.
So you're 18, you have a kid. What happens next?
So I try to get a real job because even then I was working multiple jobs. I was pumping gas. I was delivering news. I never gave up my newspaper route. I'm very, protective of my stuff, So I was doing all these multiple jobs. She's pregnant now. They had promoted me to department manager earlier on, maybe like around 16 years old. I was department manager. But that was when I told you I had a girlfriend at the time who got me the job. Her dad got me. They ended up transferring him. They're bringing a whole new manager team. So I don't have my connection there anymore. Plus, me and the girl had broken up. She actually left me for somebody else at work. There's a whole big story of that in the book. The guy, it's funny, the name of the chapter is called Johnny Butthole. His name was John Bartolo. He's everything I wasn't. Big, strong, smart, had a great car. He was in college. All the girls in the store liked him, and he had his eye for my girl. She was the prettiest girl there. And he kept saying to me, you wait till she's 18, it's over. And she was like a year older than me. So he says, I can't mess with her now. I'm like, there's no way she's leaving me. Like, she'll never leave me for you. And she did. And it was funny because I tried fighting him. He beat my ass so many times. And one time I was ready. I was with my friend. He was teaching me some things, So I went to the store and I picked up the PA system. I'm like, his name was John Bartolo. I'm like, John Butthole to the front, please. Johnny Butthole. Everyone's laughing. And I'm like, I got him this time. And he's coming. He's like, you crazy. Beat my ass in the store again. So her and I broke up. Of course, they're married, ironically enough. They're still together from like teenagers. So, so I'm a new store, a new team. And, I'm working around the clock. I'm getting like 80 hours a week. So, $4.25 an hour, but overtime is $6.75. So now I'm really pimping my overtime hours, making $6.75 an hour. And, I'm doing everything. I tell them, anytime someone calls out, call me. Anytime, I learned every department. It was a little hardware store. I learned how to make paint, learned how to cut the wood, learned how to work the forklift to unload the trucks, learned how to cut wallpaper, how to measure carpeting. So I learned every single department in the place. I learned to register. Anytime you have a call out, call me. So they did. And I was getting like 70, 80 hours a week. But then, my girlfriend's pregnant. We decided to get married. And I'm doing too many odd jobs now. And there was an assistant manager opening. And I go to work that day. They had interviews all day lined up for like external candidates. So I said, okay, I'm going to crash this party. I get a suit, doesn't even fit me, cheapest suit I can get. And I go to work and they do all their interviews. And I go to the manager, his name was Mr. Bradley. And, he's like, Bo, what are you all dressed up for? I said, Mr. Bradley, I know every department in the store. I'm the first one in every day. I'm the last one out. When it snows, I'm outside. I shovel the snow before you guys get here. I shovel your parking spot. So when you come in, you have a place to go. How could you want anyone else in the world to be an assistant manager but me? Jolene is pregnant. I'm going to have a baby. And, one of my jobs there was I was the breakfast boy because I was the only one that didn't screw up breakfast. There was like 6 managers in the place. So they always sent people and they would mess it up. Oh, why is there cheese on my thing? And, I said a hot chocolate. You brought me a hot tea. So I used to get the breakfast. And they used to say, Bo's going to get the breakfast. And I would be there, even at the bagel shop, looking over the counter. I'm like, hey, I saw you put salt on that. I said plain. You make him a new one. And I'd always come back. I did that for months and months. And so he's in the office with a couple of the other assistant managers. And then he's like, Bo, you're a high school dropout, man. Like, you can't do what you do well. He took $20. He put it in my shirt pocket. He said, go get us breakfast. And I was like, so humiliated. They're laughing, the other assistant managers. And I was so much better than them, I felt. These guys were lazy, always in the office. Every time corporate would come, they would get in trouble for the store being so shitty, except for my little department. So, I went to the bagel store. I started crying, this big jamoke, 18-year-old, 6'2" knucklehead. And I just felt like shit. It was the first time the high school dropout was thrown in my face. It was brought up, from other coworkers here and there, like, oh, shut up, you fucking dropout. That would happen. But like from my boss, who I thought really respected me and I thought really appreciated me because all the stuff I would do for them and how reliable I was, that one hurt. So I got everybody's breakfast. And, before work that day, I remember talking to Jolene. I'm like, hey, I'm getting this job and we got the suit and we're practicing. She's asking me questions, interview questions. And, you're a high school dropout. Why should I give you a chance? And I'd have an answer for it. And what makes you think you're more qualified? We practice all this stuff. So I kind of wipe my tears off. I walk in. I give everybody their breakfast. I took my $20 out. I paid for it. I said, here's your $20 back. This one's on me. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I quit. I said, you motherfuckers are all going to work for me one day. So I got out. I left. Mr. Bradley chases me down. He's like, Bo, what are you doing? You have a baby on the way. I'm like, fuck you. I told you go fuck yourself, right? Go fuck yourself. If you don't want me, somebody else will want me. Let someone else get you fucking breakfast tomorrow. I hope they fuck it up. And that was it. And I go home and, I get home early and Jolene's like, what are you doing home? And I'm like, she's like, did you get the promotion? I'm like, I quit. They don't want me. They think I'm a piece of shit. They think I'm a fucking loser. And she said, well, what are we going to do? We were living with my mom at the time. I said, I had these other odd jobs, we'll figure it out. And, her dad, who hated me, I took his beautiful only daughter, born in Italy. She was on this great path for success. I knock her up. They never even met me. They met me after she told him she was pregnant. He wanted her to be with an Italian to carry on the culture. I'm this American knucklehead, my hat sideways. And he had his own plumbing business. So she's like, you can work with my dad. He needs an apprentice. I'm like, fuck, I'd rather die. But the dad came and he says, come work on my truck. You got to support, I have a grandchild coming. So I started working with him. It was terrible. He was so mean to me. He didn't speak English. Well, the rest of the world knew he didn't speak English. He thought he spoke English. It was one of those things. So it was funny. Every time I would try to correct him, he'd yell at me. One time he got pulled over. And the cop was like, he went through like 3 red lights. He was just a lunatic guy. And the cop pulls him over and he's yelling at the cop. And so I'm thinking he's going to get arrested. So I said, officer, I'm sorry. He doesn't speak English. Let me help you. He's like, who knows speak English? You know speak English. I talk English. You talking to bullshit. So like that was that guy. So he used to always, do that to me. And he would fuck with me. He would like tell me to go to the truck to get something that wasn't there. He'd park like 3 blocks away in Brooklyn. There's never any parking. He said, oh, go to the truck and take this thing for me. And then I'd come back and him and the customers would be laughing at me. Like he'd be doing it in the rain. He was just a dick to me. So I couldn't wait to get off his truck. So then I just started, trying to, my mission in life was always to get off his truck. And then I got a job as an assistant manager somewhere. And the guy didn't want me. The district manager hired me and said, you're going to go work in this store. And the manager was like, I don't want this fucking guy. He's a kid. I want a grown up. A guy has no experience. I was applying assistant manager job. I wasn't taking anything that wasn't an assistant. Just to show the other guys, like, these guys don't even know me. And they'll give me a job. I worked for you guys for 5 years, open to close every fucking day, 7 days a week. Didn't even clock in for half of it when your payroll budget was too high. I would work for free for you. So I was going to work on his truck till I got the assistant manager job, and I did. And then this is where I made my first mistake. So in a weird, unexpected thing, I go to Applebee's with my brother. This is probably like the next moment after dropping out of school. So my brother's like, hey, let's go meet for lunch. So we meet for lunch. We're in the parking lot. There's an Applebee's and there's a Chili's. So he's like, what are you in the mood for? I'm like, I don't really care. He's like, let's go to Applebee's. I wish we went to Chili's. So we go to Applebee's. There's a football game on. So we're sitting at the bar and like everyone's talking about the game. And they're all talking about how this one team, the Chiefs were going to win the game. And I'm like, no fucking way, man. They can't run the ball. The Patriots are going to, like, you're crazy. The Patriots suck. I said, they do suck, but this is what they're good at. And what they're good at is they're going to win this game. I was like, I bet you $20. I said, okay, I bet you $20. So we bet on $20 and the Patriots won the game. And I was like, oh, dude, how the fuck did you come up with that? And I told him why. So the guy started really pressing me. He's like, well, here are the games coming this afternoon. Who do you think's going to win? So I'm like, well, I don't know about this. And I'm positive that this is going to happen. I tell him why he's going to win. So he says, I'm going to call this into my bookie. I'm going to put a lot of money. If I win, I'm going to give you $100. Stay and watch the game. I don't even know what a bookie was. He calls it in and, makes the bet. The team won. Guy pulls out $100. Now, again, when you're making $4.25 an hour and then, $6.75 in overtime, guy hands you $100. It's like a day's pay, And he's like, dude, you're fucking amazing. Like, the way you analyze this stuff is different. He's like, what's your name? I said, my name is Bo. He says, nah, I don't like that. He goes, I'm going to call you the B Train. He's like, you're the motherfucking B Train. And I have a few beers. I said, that's right. I am the motherfucking B Train. He says, I'm going to hook you up with my bookie. He says, you should make bets. He says, you can make a lot of money. He's like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I told him. He says, yeah. So he says, he calls the guy right in front of me. He goes, I have this guy here. He's pretty good at making bets. He's pretty good. His name is the B Train. Give him a code. So I get on the phone. I'm like, hi, like, what's your name? What's this? Where do you live? We need your address. So I give him that. I said, okay, show the guy, your license. That's with you. So I showed the guy my license. Okay, every time you call, you're going to say your name is the B Train and your code is 1234, whatever it is. Anytime you want to make a bet and call. So I'm like, all right. So the next week I just called. I'm like, hey, this is the B Train. Like, hey, B Train. I'm like, what's your code? Oh, this is my code. They're like, what do you got? So I'm like, oh, give me the Eagles and the Cowboys. They're like, for how much? I'm like, I don't know, $50. Okay, $50 pays 42. Okay, so I'm like, okay. And then, so that guy that hooked me up with them was like my contact. And I won. The guy would call me. I would go meet with him. He'd pay me like my $150. I'm like, this is fucking great. So I start betting, and like I couldn't lose. And the guy gave me advice. He said, listen, gambling gets bad. People start thinking they can never lose. He said, you have a really good way of analyzing it. You really do your homework on this stuff. Keep doing that. Like, don't bet games that you don't know. Like, only do what you're doing. Like, the way you told me, I'm not sure about this. Don't bet those. Just bet the ones you show. I said, okay. I couldn't miss, so I start betting more and more. And like, I'm meeting this guy, he's hitting me like $3,000. And like, that's like a month and a half pay for me. And we end up getting our own place, kind of. My mother's tenant left. My mother had a 2-family house, so we rent my mother's apartment. But I'm paying her full rent. We get a better car. I'm getting the baby nice stuff. And I'm making money gambling. Now I have this assistant manager job. And then things got off the rails. I start losing, and I break all the rules. I'm like, oh shit, I'm down $100. I'm down 500. Fuck, I don't have $500. All right, what's the next game? Okay, give me this team should win this. So you start chasing when you're gambling, not doing the research, betting games you shouldn't be betting. Next thing you know, I'm down like $3,000. No way of paying it. It may have been $3 million to me at that time. My paycheck is $500-600. So I call my aunt. And I'm like, she was the one person in my family kind of had it together. That's actually who I named my first daughter after. My first daughter's named after her. And I said to her, listen, I got in some trouble. I'll pay you back. But, because the guy who was my cool friend started being like, bro, where's the fucking money? Like, I have your address. I'll come to your fucking house. Like, you don't want to fuck with us. Which I never saw that side of him before. I was like, hey, we'd meet. We'd have a beer. We'd have some wings. And now I start losing. And it's like, where's my fucking money? And I don't have it. I said, these guys, I fucked up. So she said, don't worry about it. I'll give you the money and I don't want you to pay me back. I just want you to promise me you're never, ever, ever going to gamble again. You're smart. You're hardworking. You don't need this shit. Don't do it. I said, I promise. This is fucking crazy. It's over. So I go and I pay these guys. And that's over. I said, I quit. I retired. Never gambling again. I call the place. Hi, this is the B Train. Delete my shit. I'm never working here again. If I ever call you back, don't take my bets. It's over. I want nothing to do with you guys. Okay. I paid in full. Leave me alone. So I get this job, and it was very far, this job. I was driving, and we're struggling financially. I gave up all the other jobs because I really wanted to grow. I'm doing the same thing. First one in, last one out, not getting paid for it. My schedule is 9 to 5. I'm there 6 to 10 every day. The manager hates my guts. Sorry. Doesn't want me in the store, mean to me, disrespectful to me. I hate the guy. He's getting married. He asked me, I was his only assistant. Listen, I'm getting married on Friday, and then we have the honeymoon. You think you can close for me Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Sure, I'll close for you, no problem, whatever you want. He was lazy. He used to never go to the bank. He used to always wait for me to go. So usually what you're supposed to do at night when you leave is take your money, go to night drop, and drop it. That's the company rule. He would never do that. He just wanted to go home. So I would come the next day. He'd be like, "Oh, Bo, take the money to the bank for me. Take the money to the bank for me." So he had closed the last couple nights. He hadn't asked me to go to the bank. So I tell the story differently in the book. I should have told it more fun this way, but I'm already committed. But so I had another job where I was working on a medical waste truck part-time with a friend I had all the way back from that first store I worked in, that hardware store. That was, whenever I can, I would work on this truck a couple days a week, making a few bucks. So the stage was set, so he wasn't there. He hadn't gone to the bank in a couple days, and I worked it out for the guy to come in and rob us. Really, not because I needed the money, just because I fucking hated this guy. And the money wouldn't have been, I was struggling, but it wasn't really what my thought process was. I just wanted to fuck this guy for not going to, I wanted to get him in trouble. I had some weird twisted thing, like if he got in trouble for not going to the bank and he gets fired, maybe I'll get his job, I'll make more money, I'll have control over my schedule. So, he was a dick to me, and I had to take it. I had the wife, I had the kid, I was just sucking it up. So we set it up, closing, guy falls out of the ceiling, pulls a gun out. It was a fake gun. Girls, cashiers are screaming. He's, "Shut the fuck up, bitch." He punches me to, make everything look real because his camera's back there. And he had me hit me with the back. "Open the fucking safe. Open the fucking safe." So I opened the safe. I noticed 3 days worth of money in it. Plus, I told him, wait till I bring all the cashiers in so you'll have all my money. Friday's our busiest day. So you'll have Wednesday's money, Thursday's money, Friday's money. So I give him all the money. He leaves. He was wearing this Mets jacket. He runs out the fire exit. I told him, when you leave, I said, the only phone back there is a fax machine phone. Rip it out of the wall when you leave. So I'm going to have to call the cops, otherwise they're going to. So he rips the fax machine out. He throws it. And he runs out, And everyone's screaming, crying. And one goes "Call the cops." I'm like, "Oh, he got rid of the phone. Should I go out?" So we open the office. We run to the store. It gives us time. I call the police. "We were just robbed. This guy came out of the ceiling, punched me in the face." And they're like, okay, where are you? So I told them where we are. Give us a description. I'm like, "I was wearing a mask. He had a Mets jacket, a purple Mets jacket on." Okay. We're sending officers on the way. Cops get there in 2 minutes. They come in, 100 cops are there. "You guys okay?" We're like, "Okay." They're giving me ice for my eye. And then while they're there, within a minute of them getting there, I hear on the speaker, "Hey, we have a suspect, purple Mets jacket. We have him in custody." So I'm saying to myself, oh my God, I'm fucked. My life is over. There's no way this guy is going to just, he's my good friend. And so they're like, okay, they bring him in for positive ID. So they bring him in, and it wasn't him. It was just some other guy in a Mets jacket that was running down the subway to catch a train. Because the cop's like, "Yo, where's the money?" He's like, "I don't have the money. I don't know what you're fucking talking about." And "Is that him? Is that him?" And then I was about to say it's him, but then one of the girls, the cashier, was like, "Yeah, that's him." I'm like, "Yeah, that's him. That's the fucking guy who punched me in the face. That's the guy who robbed us." So cops are really they're smacking me. "Where's the fucking money? Where's the fucking money?" He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What you're talking about. So they go, they arrest the guy. They make me call the manager. The manager comes. He's got his tuxedo. His bow tie is down. He's coming from his wedding. "What happened?" I'm like, "Oh, we got robbed. So all this happens, the dust settles. I end up going home. Guy comes to my house, knocks on the door. My friend opens the door. There was $6,000, which again was a fortune to me back then. $6,000 each. It was $12,000. That was life-changing money for me. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck these guys, And again, not that it's okay. It's definitely not okay. But we had shoplifters had came in maybe about 3 weeks earlier and stole a bunch of stuff. So I remember filling out the incident report, and I was dealing with corporate on it. I'm like, "Man, this sucks. This can really hurt our profitability." No, we have insurance for this stuff. We have a small deductible. We'll pay $1,000. Everything else is covered by the insurance. So it gets stuck in my head. So in my head, I'm like, okay, it's going to cost this big company $1,000. And I'm going to get to make this money. I was 3 months behind on all my bills. I'm like, I justified it in my head. I'm like, they underpay me because I'm a fucking high school dropout. I know other assistant managers making twice as much money as I am. Fuck these guys, which is, again, terrible, but that's just what I thought. I can't change the way I thought. And He came to my house with the money, like we hugged it out. I'm like, bro, like what the fuck did you punch me in the face so hard? Like what the fuck? It's like, dude, we had to make it look real. I told him that they got this other poor bastard that, they arrested this guy, which I'm sure they let him go. I mean, and he didn't do it, but I don't know. I didn't like follow up. But as the guilt inside started getting there. So like every day at work, like someone would just look at me and I'm like, oh, this guy knows. Like, he knows I did it. They had no way of knowing, but I was just, like, oh my God. And then one day, so one of the things I had done was we were in a strip mall. There was payphones outside. So I called my buddy and I told him, I'll call you and tell you when it's okay to come. So I call him and I said, hey, this is good time. You're going to come in around this time. Come in, ask to use the bathroom. They'll give you a key. The bathroom was in the back. You can climb up in the ceiling. There's drop ceiling tiles, and then just wait there. No one's going to know you didn't leave. So come in like about a half hour before. I gave him the whole thing on the phone. That's what he does. The thing worked to perfection. And then the detectives were there checking in on the manager. They wanted video footage, all this stuff. And then about 3 weeks later, the manager called me over and said, hey, the detective wants to talk to you. So I'm like, oh, hey, how you doing? I said, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah, anything you want. He was like, did you make a phone call from the payphone night of the burglary? So obviously he knows I did. That's too random of a question, so I can't say no. I said, yeah, I did. He said, there are no phones in the store? I said, yeah, there's lots of phones in the store. And they were like, you ever use the phones in the store to call? I said, yeah. So why'd you use the payphone like that night, like an hour before closing? I said, honestly, it's personal. I don't really want to talk about it with you. It's kind of none of your business. It's a personal phone call. It's like, oh, it's none of my business? I said, that's none of your business. Why made a phone call? They said, your store gets robbed for $12,000. You're the manager on duty. No one goes to the bank for 3 fucking days. You make a phone call an hour before using the payphone. It's none of my fucking business. So I said, and the manager was there. So I said, well, I didn't mean it's none of your business. I mean, it's none of his fucking business. I said, he don't like me, this guy. So I don't want to give him any information. If you come outside with me, I'll explain to you. So I said, listen, I have a girlfriend. I said, I don't want people to work to know. Like if I'm on the phone, somebody picks up, they can listen. I don't want my wife to find out. I don't want this guy to find out. But I called my girlfriend. It's okay. We're going to get the call records, and we're going to, we know around the time you're out there, and your girlfriend's going to be the one to answer the phone. I said, yeah, so, or her mom, or her parents. She lived with her parents. But yeah, that's who answered the phone. It's like, okay. So I come back in. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to jail for the rest of my life. This is over. I start looking for other jobs real quick. I said, I don't care where the fuck it is. I got to get out of here. Within like a week, I found another job. So I just quit. I said, hey, I found another job, Larry. I know you hate me. I hate you. Fuck you. Fuck me. We're out of here. I quit. I'm just saying, I just hope I never hear from these guys ever again. And I never did. So I'm like, okay, I got away with that. Never doing that shit again.
And that was the first crime you ever committed in your life?
Well, it was a second crime. In the book, I don't know if this, well, I guess this counts. So during the handball days, I started losing. My arm was killing. I couldn't keep up. I was winning like crazy, and word started getting around, so better players started coming. There were days where I was making like $300, as a 15-year-old kid just playing handball, just toasting these guys on the court. So like other guys started coming, older guys started coming, and there was a day where I lost everything I had. I lost everything. Whatever I was winning, I was up. I had money in my pocket. I lost all that. And I was going home, and again, it wasn't planned. But I guess if you have it in you, you have it in you, I guess. And this was like, again, this was straight A student me. This was like never got in trouble me. There's a chicken store by my house, and as I was walking home from the bus, I just noticed the back door chicken store was open, and I just thought it was weird. So I'm like, I just wanted to check it. So I'm looking like, what's going on in here? So I walk in, and I'm like, no one's here. I'm like, hello. And I almost closed the door. But I'm like, what's just going on? So I walk in, and the office door was open, and like there was the register tills on there, and they had all the money in there. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm like, I'm just going to take it. I lost all my handball money. My mom thinks I'm getting money from my dad. It wasn't much money. It was like $120, but whatever it was, I just took it. In the book, there was a chapter called Chicken Store. It was like, that's the first time. So I took the money from the chicken store. I went home. I gave it to him. I said, oh, yeah, this is the money, we got from Dad today. And again, that was it. It didn't feel like I robbed something. It didn't feel like it. But of course I know I did. But in the moment, I was just like, oh, fuck it. I felt like someone like just dropped money on the floor. So that was the first bad thing I did. And that was about like, I'd say 3 or 4 years before. And then I had this problem with the, I did this other thing. So I get this other job, and at this point, me and my wife pretty much hate each other. Fighting every day, arguing every day. We couldn't be more different people. The stress of the money, stress of the baby. We just didn't. We hated each other's face. Like the side of each other's face was like, I fucking hate that face. I hated her voice. She hated mine. But we're trying to keep it together for the sake of the baby. So I get this new job. I'm like, okay, got a new job, a new start. We'll figure it out. We don't figure it out. Finances are bad. I start gambling again. She's calling me a loser. Her parents call me a loser. She's always borrowing money from her parents to pay the electric bill, to pay the cable bill. I just can't make ends meet. I can't really afford the rent. When I had multiple jobs, it was one thing, but I'm throwing myself into my career, so I can't work with other jobs. I start gambling again. I'll never forget it. It was the Stanley Cup. It was the Devils. They were big underdogs. I heard everybody talking, big underdogs. The Devils are going to fucking kill these guys. Nobody can score on Brodeur. They have this great defense. I don't care how good their offense is. They can't score. They're going to lose every game like 1-0. Like the Devils are going to win this thing. So I end up calling that number again. I'm like, hi, this is the B train. I don't know if you still have me on file. And they were like, hold on. They're like, oh, yeah, we have you. I said, yeah, this was my code. So I'm like, yeah, it's still your code. I said, what are the odds for the Devils to win the whole Stanley Cup? It was like 4-1 or 5-1. I'm like, what's the absolute most I can bet that you'll let me bet? And it was a small number. I want to say like $500 or something. So I said, okay, I want $500 on the Devils to win the Stanley Cup. Devils swept them. They won the first 4 games and won $2,000. I hadn't seen that guy for a couple of years. He calls me. He's like, oh, shit, welcome back. I'm like, I'm not back. I just knew that this was going to happen. And I knew it was easy fucking money. So I met him, made the money. During the hockey playoffs, it's also basketball playoffs. I was sure the Knicks were going to win. No doubt in my mind. So I had this $2,000. Now, of course, I spent the $2,000. I paid up 3 months of the bills. We were behind. I got us all caught up. Money's gone. Knicks lose. And because I had that big win, they upped my limit to 1,000. So I bet 1,000 on Knicks. I lost. I'm like, fuck. So I start looking at what other series are going on. All right. So I'm down 1,000. How much can I bet? I said, well, you got to pay the 1,000 before we let you bet. So I don't pay any of my bills. I scrape up my 2 paychecks. I paid $1,000. I said, I'm going to get us some money back. So now, not only do I'm even there, but now I'm behind again because I just made my last 2 paychecks. Long story short, I'm down like $5,000 with no way of paying it. I can't call my aunt. There's only so much I can do work-wise. I'm fucked.
Did they extend your credit?
Yeah.
Okay.
They kept extending my credit because I was paying.
Once you paid that $1,000 back, they gave you a credit.
They just and I was a good talker. I'm like, hey, I got this coming in, and I act like I was this big high roller. But I built a history. Like I paid that $3,000 that last time. I paid this $1,000 this time. So they opened it up. Wait till you hear later what they opened it up to. So I don't know what to do. I start showing up at my job where I'm working. Where's the fucking money? I'm like, I'll give you money. I'll give you a little bit. I'll give you you better give us something right now. Like here's $80. I'm $80. I'm like, see me on Friday. I get paid. So I was paying them. And then in the moment, it really felt like a gift from God. The armored car company came to get the money, as they did every day. They said armored car was a very busy store. There would be like 5 or 6 deposit bags. I would sign a sheet. He would sign a sheet. So they would write the bag numbers. It was a process. The money would take like 10 minutes every time. They'd open the bag. He'd write the number. He'd initial. I'd initial. He'd put it in this thing. We do all of that. He leaves. A bag of money falls out as he's going down the stairs. One of the bags just drops down this little hallway. No cameras. And the guy just keeps walking. And I'm like, oh, shit. He keeps walking. He leaves. The door closes behind him. So I just instinctively, I just take it, I shove it down my pants, and I just go and I work. Because these guys came in the morning, I work all day, got this bag of money in my pants. I'm like, I'm going to wait and see if anybody says anything. I go home, I had a fish tank. I put the money under the gravel, under the gravel in my fish tank in my, in the living room there. Just covered it up. I didn't tell my wife, I didn't tell nobody. I didn't know how much was in there. I just left it. I go to work, nobody says nothing. Week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no one says anything. And I'm saying, there's no way they're going to say anything. Like, he signed it. On camera, he put it in his bag. It's his responsibility. They're never going to think that I have this money. How would I get it? Like, there's no way. If that money's missing, it's corporate dealing with the bank. 3 weeks have passed. That's it. And I'm telling these guys, I'm like, guys, listen, I'm getting a big bonus in 3 weeks. I wanted to give myself time. I had the scare the last time. I said, I promise you I'm going to pay you in full. I'm saving all my checks. I'm like, I don't know what's in this bag. So finally, I'm like, this is the day. I go home at night. I go in the fish tank. I wait for my wife to go to sleep. I take out all the money, all the shits on it. I open it up. I owed these guys exactly $5,000. It was $5,005. I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, God loves me. He knows I'm not a bad guy. He knows I just do dumb shit. And this was him saying, like he dropped it from the heavens. I pay the guy, go get my bacon and egg and my Yoo-hoo with the $5, keep the change. I'm liberated. I'm like, again, I'm not gambling anymore. It's over. I was, like I was telling you, I was always a top performer at work. They brought me in as an assistant manager. They have a position there called first assistant, which was like next in line. You run the store the day the manager's off. So my manager to me, he says, hey, Bo, corporate's coming in. They're going to interview you for the first assistant's job. Are you interested? Of course I'm interested in that. Like, I want your fucking job one day. Yeah, of course I'm interested. So, okay, so I come in, we go in the back and I'm talking to these two corporate guys and they're asking me all these questions and like weird questions, like not the question I was expecting. And they were like, so, tell me what was the last job you had? So I'm telling them, I was assistant manager of this place, oh, why'd you leave the last place? Just a little bit, just want something closer to home, a little bit baby, had a baby. And like, oh, okay. I went to stuff. So they said, where's the money? And I'm like, what money? I still didn't even put it together yet. They said, and the guy pulls out a badge, the money you fucking took from the deposit. Where's the money? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. So I says, okay, you're under arrest. So it was never an interview. So they arrest me in the store, in the back stock room. They walk me out, and I lived in this neighborhood. So and I was the guy at work. I'm arrogant at work. I know that I'm good, and I come in early, I stay late, I solve all the problems. So I have this kind of aura about me at the place. And now they see me walking out in handcuffs. Neighbors, the shock on some of these guys' faces, like, what the fuck, And they throw me in the car and they bring me down, and I'm sitting there and I'm scared out of my fucking life. I'm this young guy, like maybe 20 years old now, 2-year-old baby, and the guy sits me down with a legal pad. They got me. I'm scared out of my life. And the guy's like, listen, you're clearly not a bad guy. Just tell me why you took the money. And I said, I didn't take the money. The guy dropped the money. He dropped it on the floor and left. I said, I just kind of felt like if you're walking down the street and a guy drops money out of his pocket and you pick it up, are you a thief? I don't think so. I said, I gave the guy the money. I did my job. I signed the paper. And the guy's like, yeah, I agree with you, man. Like, you're right. You didn't do anything wrong. I said, thank you. I said, I feel like I just got lucky. I felt like almost like hitting a scratch off. And the guy's like, yeah, I would feel the same way. Okay, I'm glad that you told me that now. I knew you weren't a bad. Just write it all down. So I wrote it all down. Yeah, goes out the bag. Took it. He's like, why'd you wait 3 weeks? I told him, I actually hit it in my fish tank. Write it down. Hit it in my fish tank. So I wrote like 3 pages on a legal pad, basically signed a confession. Again, I didn't think I was doing that. I'm thinking this guy is my friend, and he's like, listen, just tell us the truth. Fucks up, you're going to be okay. You don't have any history. I told him, I still help my mom. I have a little baby. I work 100 hours a week. So I wrote this confession, and then the guy was like, okay. He says, sit here. So I'm sitting in the holding cell. And the guy says, okay, you went to the courts. He said, you're going to be spending the night. He said, whatever he told me. So I spend the night in the holding cell. Scared out of my, because anybody they arrested, they just threw in that holding cell. So I'm sitting in there, at first it was just me. So I'm like, okay, I'm sitting down, like, I'm saying to myself, you're such an idiot, it's so fucking stupid. Why the fuck did you do that? Then I'm going to myself, like, you know what? You really didn't do anything wrong. Like, the guy dropped the fucking money. Like, if he dropped it on the sidewalk, I don't understand. Like, I really got to that place, like, why am I, they arrested me obviously for grand larceny. And I'm like, I didn't steal this money. Like, to me, stealing is you come in with a mask and a gun, give me your money. I said, if this guy would have dropped it, on the sidewalk, if this guy forgets it in the truck and the next guy gets it, like, I don't understand what I did. I feel like I stumbled upon something. So I got to a place, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, let's go to court. I'm not guilty here. And then as the night goes on, this guy comes in the hall, and I'm like, oh, the fuck is this guy? You know, some big, nasty, you know, cursing the cops, fuck you, suck my dick, pig. You know, and I'm just sitting there, this nice little boy, I'm sitting in the corner, my hand folded. I'm like, holy shit. And then, you know, by the end of the night, there's like 10 guys in this fucking cell, all fucking bad dudes, like lunatics, and like they're fighting with each other. And I'm just sitting there scared out of my mind saying, what do I got to do? So my mother, you know, of course I tell my mother what happened. I don't even call my wife, call my mom. You know, like, fuck this. She calls my uncle, the guy whose ID I was using, Caesar, you know, all those years ago. And, you know, he had like a political kind of job. And so he had connections. So he called, he said, listen, my dumbass nephew, like, this is what he did. He's not a bad fucking guy. Like, he can't go to jail. Like, my sister depends on him. He's got a young kid, you know, straight A honor roll student. If you look this kid up, like, he just, you know, he made a bad decision, but he's not a criminal. So, like, he had friends like that were like in the prosecutor, the DA's office. So, you know, he got me a lawyer. He goes, use this lawyer, you know. So, you know, they bail me out, whatever. And then within a couple of weeks, he was like, listen, you're gonna plead to shoplifting. It's gonna be a misdemeanor. Shouldn't mess you up too much, but if people ask you, do you have a record, tell them I have a misdemeanor for shoplifting. I'm like, shoplift? I'm not a fucking shoplifter, bro. They're like, or you can have a felony for grand larceny. I mean, you pick. He says, you know, you're not going to go to jail, but you're going to be on probation for 5 years. You know, you're going to have to go meet a probation officer every week. You're going to have to take a drug test. I said, I never did drug. I never smoked pot, never smoked a cigarette. I'm like, why do I got to take a drug test? Dude, be fucking happy. This is all you have to do. So that's what happened. So I lose the job. And I get this 5-year probation, so I'm like, okay, dodge the bullet, go back to work on my father-in-law's truck. You know, you know, he's the one that called me American Loser. That's why that's why my book is called like The B Train and American Loser.
How did they find out that you were the one that took the money?
Because because of my confession, they figured it out because it made sense because I was the one who signed the sheet that I gave him the money, and. You know, this guy's, you know, 60-year-old guy working for 40 years, never had a problem in his life, the armored car guy. Those armored car guys are all high-integrity guys, massive background check guys. They're all bonded. So he goes in, and like for the first time in his life, he's missing a bag. So he was like, there's no way I fucking did this. You know, so their next course of action would be to come to me. Like, did he leave the bag behind or what happened?
Why do you think they waited so long to talk to you?
I think that it just probably took them that long.
To figure it out?
I think it had taken that long to figure it out because they go in, there's a process, you know, and maybe they were looking for the money, maybe they were interrogating the guy. I never knew. But once I confessed, it was over. You know what I mean?
So did you repay the money?
I had restitution as part of my thing. But it was it was 5 years probation, and I had the whole 5 years to pay it back. So they worked it out with, I don't remember the numbers, it was so long ago, but each week they actually garnished my paycheck. So I didn't have a job for a while. I used to have to go to the court, and I used to have to pay. And then once I had the job, it was part of the deal. Like, I had to let the people know that I had a check garnishment, and they had to do it. So I was working, you know, so I ended up working with my father-in-law on his truck for a long time, trying to look for another job.
And how old were you at this point?
Like 20 years old, yeah, because the baby was about to turn 2. And then, you know, I'm trying to get jobs everywhere. And, you know, I was upfront about it and began to listen, so you know, I have a misdemeanor. I figured it'd be better if they heard it from me than if they found out later. So I have this misdemeanor, you know, for shoplifting. I didn't mean to do it. I thought I paid for it. I didn't. It's overzealous security guard and, you know. So they're like, I get it. That shit happened. So, you know, it took me a few months to find this other job, but I got a job as an assistant manager somewhere. And I'm like, okay, things are going to be okay. You know, this is behind me. I'm getting through my probation period, working hard. You know, me and my wife at this point, it was the worst it's ever been. Because now, you know, I'm arrested. I'm a misdemeanor. I'm working with her dad every day. He would introduce me as the American loser. Oh, this guy is my husband and my daughter is a fucking American loser. My daughter, I don't know why. My daughter, she's so pretty. She married this fucking American loser. That's how he used to introduce me to everybody. So, you know, I'm working on his truck. I'm still working on the medical waste truck. I'm selling vacuums door to door, like cleaning people's fucking rugs, trying just to make ends meet, trying to, pay my bills. And there's a story in the book where like one of the kids I went to high school with. So again, I was a smart kid in high school. I had the real pretty girlfriend. I was like the best kid in gym class, and I was a dick. I'd shoot a 3-point, and I was boisterous about it. Now here I am, like I'm vacuuming, like so this kid is now like he's 20 years old. He's got his own place. I'm knocking door to door selling vacuums. I'm like, I hated this fucking kid in school, and like. Part of where you're selling vacuums is like you vacuum their mattress, you vacuum you show them what a great vacuum it is, and you try to get a deal. And he's there with his brother, and then I hear him in the other room. He's like, "This is why you don't drop out of school. You become a fucking piece of shit like this kid vacuuming people's rugs for free." He's like, "What do you mean for free? You're not buying a vacuum?" I'm buying the fucking vacuum. I hear him doing the whole thing. I just want to tell everybody that I had Bo, fucking vacuuming my fucking rugs in my house for free. He thought he was the shit back then. So I'm going through that really terrible, like almost like a self-loathing kind of phase. So I fast forward, I get this other job. I quit. I couldn't wait to quit. I'm like, hey, they called him Nonno, which is grandpa in Italian. That's what my little daughter used to call him. So I used to call him Nonno. So I'm like, hey, Nonno, I quit again. Never coming back. So I got this job. Again, I throw myself into the job. I'm going to be the greatest guy in the world. But me and my wife are just completely estranged. We don't talk to each other at all. I start messing with all the girls at work, Very successful. There's crazy stories in the book about, the store and how I ended up getting promoted to manager. A lot of weird things happen. I have a couple of girlfriends in the store that I'm kind of fooling around with. And then I come and get recruited to go to another job. So I'm like, okay. It was a big job. They came into my store. They loved the store. They loved me. They loved my people. They were building this big store next door, this big company. And, they offered to double my pay. So I'm like, I'm going to take it. If you take my team with me, you take my guys, you give them all raises, we'll come. And something happened to me where I'm like, you know what? A lot of my problems with my wife is been money problems. We've always been behind on the bills. We've always had pressure. She's always throwing in my face how her friend's husband bought her this car or bought her these clothes, and her friend gets to stop at this store, but she's got to shop at Kmart and all this shit. You should really belittle me a lot, But I said, you know what? I got this big job to double my money. So I go to my wife and say, listen, let's make shit work. Like, let's get out of my mom's house. Let's get our own place. I have this good job now. I'm going to make good money. So she's like, let's reconcile. Let's work this out. We have a beautiful baby here. Let's do this. Okay, let's do this. Save my money, put a down payment. Want to go buy a house. One of the girls I was messing with says to me, hey, listen, something you need to know. I know you said you want to break up. I know you want to get back with your wife. You say you're getting back with your wife, because she's pregnant. So I'm pregnant too. And I'm like, yeah, I don't fucking believe you. Like, you're not pregnant. Like, we fooled around a lot, but I know that I didn't finish this out. You're not pregnant. So you're probably just trying for me not to break up with you. Or if you are pregnant because she was married, I was married, your husband probably can't afford the fucking abortion, but like, don't try that shit with me. And so we got into a really bad argument. We left. We go our separate ways. And then I get this new job. I, get my place. And, weird things start happening at home with my wife. My cousin's hanging around the house a lot. He's a lot younger. So he's like 6 years younger. So we're 21. He's like 15. And I soon figure out that they're fooling around. I'm at work all day, and so my cousin's pretty much banging my wife. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm pretty sure this is happening. Now, her and I were trying to have another baby because we'll get a new house, we'll have a new baby. We were so happy when we had this baby. Let's get that back. So we're trying to have a baby. And I find out she's, messing with my cousin. And then she gets pregnant. She comes back to me. She's like, hey, I'm pregnant. But I hadn't really confirmed she was messing with my cousin. But I finally corner my cousin. I tell him, oh, just so you know, she told me everything, man. I'm not even mad at you. She told me you guys were together. And, she really loves you. Thinks you're this great guy. I just knew it, but I couldn't get her to admit it. And so he admits it. He's like, I can't believe she fucking told you. We swore we would never say anything. But he's 15-year-old. He's stupid. So he admitted to me. So now I have this whole thing. So I'm like, fuck you. I'm leaving you. I don't care. Like, get rid of this fucking baby. I'm starting over again. But I don't know why we kind of reconcile. I get to the point in my head where I'm like, I'm cheating on her every day at work with these chicks. I'm a terrible husband. I'm absentee. I maybe deserved it. I'm going to assume the baby's mine. We're going to get together. We have this I had this job, we had this house, things are going well, and I don't know why I get the gambling itch again. I start gambling. I'm down $3,000 the very first time, and I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like, this is a problem. I work at a payment plan. The guy hooks me up with a loan shark. The loan shark pays my bet, pays my thing. I'm making monthly payments. Nothing's coming off the top. Weekly payments. Things are going okay. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop gambling. I can afford to pay this guy. The $3,000 is never going away, but I can afford like the $150 a week or whatever the hell I was paying the guy. I'm just gonna focus on work. I'm gonna get promoted. I'm gonna make my money the right way. I'm gonna fix my family. I try to get promoted. They give the job to someone else. I get my balls twisted. I felt I deserved the promotion. So I said, you know what? I'm going to open my own business. I'm going to compete with these fucking guys. I'm going to put these guys out of fucking business. I asked my mom, can you help me out? She takes out a loan against her house. I opened up a competing store. It was a party store. So I opened up a store, like a party supply store in Manhattan. I chose that location. I'm not telling you the whole story because there's so much in the book, but there was a time where I had gotten a job at this store in Manhattan, a stationery store. Only reason why I got the job is I ran out of resumes. I was out when I was looking for one of my jobs. I ran out of resumes. I went to the stationery store. I made a copy. I leave. I yell at the manager because the store was so fucked up and his people were so terrible. I had to wait forever. I said, you're in Times Square, Manhattan. The store is such a fucking hunk of shit. Your people are terrible. Like, you fucking suck. I don't know how this guy let you run this fucking store. Like, I've never seen worse employees in the store in my life. Turns out he was the owner. He called me like a month later because I left my original resume. I made copies. He held on to it, and he offered me a job to come. He said, listen, why don't you come fix my store for me? So I was working at the party store. He offered me some money. I quit the party store. I went to go work for him. I fixed his whole store up. Things are going really well. I love it. Party store calls me back, offers me a promotion. I take it. I leave the guy. I take it. So now I'm there. A couple of years passed. The guy called me from the stationery store. He says, listen, I'm going out of business. You're right. I do suck at this. My father ran this forever. He gave it to me. Do you want to come? Why don't you come buy my business for me? So I'm thinking about it. I don't get this promotion. My mother takes out a loan. I go, I buy and now I'm keeping both jobs. I have that store in Broadway, Times Square. It's doing outrageous. I'm making a fucking fortune in that store. I could not believe it. I turned into a party store. It was a stationery store. I turned into a party store, office parties, deliveries. I have guys on bikes going around bringing balloons, bringing gifts, for a baby shower, birthday party, retirement party, all that type of stuff. I kept they had bulk stationery accounts. I set them up in my basement. I moved all the guys down. So you can't walk in and buy stationery anymore. I moved the copy center and stuff downstairs. They would send us orders. So I kept a stationery business. Store's doing $6,000 a day. I bought myself a convertible Mercedes. I'm fucking pimping. I cannot believe it. I put a pool in the house. I put a fence in the house. I'm like, I can't. This is great. I opened up 2 more stores as time goes on. I have my own little thing. I'm keeping the other store. The one problem that I had was I couldn't get the overseas stuff. So what made the place I worked at so successful was they imported shit in bulk from China, all their seasonal stuff. I had to buy it secondhand in the U.S. I wasn't making that much money on that stuff. I come up with a master plan. I'm going to trade with my stores. I was in charge of 10 stores. So the stuff that we can get locally, let's just call it paper plates, napkins, tablecloth, I'm bringing them to the store and I'm taking the China stuff in return. So here's $1,000 worth of this stuff. I'm taking $1,000 worth of that stuff. I'm bringing this stuff to my stores. It's selling outrageously. So I'm doing that for about 2 years. I'm opening up all these stores and I'm just trading this merchandise. It seemed legit to me. I felt like I'll give you $1,000 worth of shit. I take $1,000 worth of shit. Someone had ratted me out. The corporate starts watching me, getting cameras and all this stuff. And one day, my brother was my guy. He would go and he would pick up the stuff for me. He would bring the stuff and take the stuff back, him and a worker. He goes to the store, delivers the stuff, takes the stuff. Cops come out and arrest him right there on the spot. They go to my store. This is like, I want to say like 2 p.m.-ish. They go to my store in Broadway. They literally shut down Broadway. Cop cars everywhere. The whole street is shut down. My store's literally on Broadway and 40th Street. Shut down. They go in. They arrest all my guys. My wife is in there. They arrest her. I was working for that company still. I was still working for them. I don't know any of this is happening. They call me, corporate says, oh, HR is here in this store. They're doing an open house. I said, why are you doing an open house? They said, I don't know. They just want you to come. They're going around different markets having open houses. I said, all right, whatever. I mean, I don't need any people, but whatever. So I go to the house. I go to the store. I go there. Detectives are there under arrest. They put me in arrest. I'm like, what I do? So they added up time, all the stuff over all the years worked out to about $300,000 worth of stuff. Now, I didn't steal $300,000 worth of stuff. I was trading, and I really didn't think anything was wrong with it in the moment. I did not think I was doing anything bad, but I wouldn't tell them. They didn't know I had my own business. They didn't know I had my own stores. I was sloppy and stupid. I was hiring my people like on their days off to work in my stores. I knew they were good. I trained them. So word just got out. Like, Bo has his own business, by the way. Bo has Bo has a convertible Mercedes. Like, Bo has all this shit. And like, we were flamboyant. Like, Friday nights, I was taking my workers. I was getting going to the strip club, VIPing, the prettiest girls, bringing them back to my stores. Down in the basement, I had the print shop, the copy shop, and I made up a little area where I had like a couch, a bed, a TV. We're bringing the strippers back, and we're paying them, of course, and we're like, every night, like different chicks. I was completely out of control. I'm not going to say that I wasn't. I wasn't like this good, hardworking soldier boy. I was getting $1,000 a night hookers driving this car. So they come, they arrest me, they shut all my stores down, they empty all my stores out in U-Haul trucks. All my guys, they got statements from. No one knew anything. No one knew what I was doing. They just thought there was a vendor. So all my guys pretty much signed statements saying, listen, Bo would say go do this, Bo would say go do that, Bo would bring me the stuff. I'm still on probation. So now they bring me in the holding cell with my brother. Different holding cell. Now I'm in the Tombs now. I'm down in Midtown South or whatever it was. It wasn't my little, Staten Island, nice little holding cell. I'm here, and it's like like 4 times the size of what I was in, and I am convinced I'm dead. I said I have this already. I already have this record. I'm on probation. I'm violating my probation. I'm dead. The guy I was sitting there. They asked me for my statement. I'm like, I'm not writing anything. Not getting me again. I'm not writing anything. I don't know anything. I just want to wait for my lawyer, and that's it. So they come in and they say, okay, they tell my brother, okay, you're going to be able to get released. You're going to Rikers. You're going to be spending the night in Rikers. And I'm like, I can't go to Rikers, man. Look how fucking pretty I am. These guys, I can't do this. I'm not built for this shit. And I'm sitting there and I'm just crying, and I'm in the cell and I'm just sitting there crying. And then, they're calling people out like busload by busload. Like, these guys would come out, 6, 7 guys would come. They handcuff them all together, their legs and so then they end up calling my name, and I go, so I'm in like the chain gang. I'm handcuffed a guy in front of me, and then they put us on a little van, and they bring us, I'm thinking I'm going to Rikers. They bring me to somewhere else. I go to somewhere else. They take us all out. We go in there, and I'm like, what's going on? He says, okay, somebody but you. Some lawyer comes in and is like, oh, yeah, where's, he calls me. And so I'm like, that's me. He's like, oh, come on out. So I come on out. He's like, yeah, your Uncle Caesar sent me. I said, sent you for what? He said, come with me. He's like, what did you say? I didn't say anything. I said, I don't know nothing. I don't know why I arrested me. I don't know nothing. He said, okay. You don't say another word to anybody ever again. I said, am I spending the night? He said, I'm trying to get you out. There's probably going to be some bail money. Who do you know that can help you? I said, my mom. I said, I have a house. I bought a house. We could take a. He said, okay, let me work on it. He came out. He said, okay, you're going home. He said, we pled not guilty. We're, buckle up because this is a problem. I said, okay. So now they fired me, from the job, obviously, So I lose that job. My businesses are empty. I had nothing. Back on my father-in-law's plumbing truck. But now I'm like a 23, 24-year-old man. We've had the second baby already, so now I have 2 kids. It's a very different situation.
So what are they saying that the crime was?
So the crime, they had me for grand larceny.
Because you're taking product that wasn't made from China and switching it with product that was from China?
What I didn't realize at the time was this was proprietary merchandise that I'm thinking they're just importing it from China. The company I worked for had manufacturing facilities in China. So they manufactured it for themselves. They weren't buying it from someone. They were making it in China and sending it here. They were the only ones allowed to sell it. They had proprietary. So there was like copyright stuff that I had broken too. they were the only ones allowed to sell that type of merchandise because they were the ones that were making it. They were producing it for themselves. That's basically what it was. But what they told me was they never acknowledged my trading. They said, listen, our only form of currency is cash, check, or credit card. You are not allowed to trade merchandise. You don't get to make those decisions. You're an employee of the company. So they looked at whatever I brought them didn't count. Only counted what left. Whatever I brought them didn't count.
Now you were trading items. You weren't trading like, say, a napkin for a napkin. You were trading, say, like a plate for a napkin, like different items that you needed to sell in your store.
So I would trade like a tablecloth and plates for Halloween costumes.
Okay, stuff that would have been more expensive for you to buy that they had the access to for cheaper.
Right.
Okay.
I could have bought exactly what they have. I could have bought similar stuff. So it was really the seasonal stuff. All the decoration you see in the house. The ceramic pumpkins, on Halloween time, the stuff you put on the wall, the straw decorate, Christmas time, the Christmas trees, the lights, the ornaments, all that stuff. To buy them locally would have been like triple the money, and I wouldn't have been able to compete. I would have had to sell it for more. I didn't care that I would have had to pay for it more, but why would anyone come buy it for me then? When all my other guys are importing stuff from overseas, they're selling a tree for $19.99. I'm buying it for $17. I got to sell it for like $25. Why would anyone come buy it from me? So that was my thinking. And when the whole thing happened, I told my lawyer, I said, I didn't do anything. This is going to be the easiest case of your life. I'm literally trading stuff, and I have it documented. Like every day, I don't have it documented. I had the guy signing it. So I didn't want to get in trouble. So I would write up something, I type it on my computer and be like, okay, delivered this. One of the things that also happened was the retail. I was trading everything at retail. So let's say you buy this tablecloth for $2.99. I would trade it for this decoration for $2.99. But it wasn't the same because they do it based off cost. So the way I was doing it, it was in my benefit that I didn't really understand at the time. I'm thinking I would literally have stuff up. Okay, here is $2,800 worth of stuff. I would go to the store that morning, the company I worked for. I would get everything I wanted, set it aside, do not touch, put paper on do not touch, and it matched up to the penny. I'm like, if I ever get in trouble for this, I want to at least be able to show. I had pictures of the stuff, so it all zeroed out. Always. But there's every season, you have a Valentine's Day, so it's Easter, every holiday. I had 3 stores every holiday for 3 years. The stuff really added up, and I was selling it off the shelf. And I started selling it for a little bit cheaper than they were. And I would let people know, why go shop at this place? You can shop it here. So if they're selling it for $2.99, I'm selling it for $2.79 and stuff. So, I understand why they're upset with me. But so when they found out about it, when my lawyer came back to me, I said, what did I really, really, really do? Like, Maybe I violated company policy, so fucking fire me. Like, what am I arrested for? Like, they emptied out my stores, all my shit's in storage, And he says, no. He said, that's when he told me the currency thing, that they don't consider your tablecloths fucking currency. You stole this stuff. You could bring whatever you want. They are the ones who make the decision. They don't accept this. I said, okay, well then tell them to fucking give it back. At least let them give me my shit back. Let me go back. If I'm going to go in trial and I'm going to have to fight this shit, fine. I want all my stuff back then. That I gave. He said, you're not going to get your stuff back. It's not going to work that way. I said, I have all the documents. I know what it is. Let them give it back. If they're not going to count it as a form of payment, why do they get to keep it? That shit cost me real money. I really bought that stuff. And I would tell my team at the time, like, don't order any of this stuff. I'll bring it to you on Friday. So they wouldn't order it. I would order it. Same exact stuff from the same exact vendor. I would bring it to them, and I would take this other stuff. It seemed legitimate to me. And I said, so then he came to me with a plea deal early on. He said, listen, you're on probation. You have a history of theft. The prosecutor goes, if you're found guilty, you look at 7 to 10 years. He said, and my biggest hang up in it, I was ready to fight. I'm like, fuck this. I really didn't think I stole anything. But they had my brother. And he did, and he's my little brother, and I kind of became his dad when my dad left, sort of. So they said, and I told my lawyer said, what's the most important thing to you? I said, well, I don't want to go to jail, and I want to let my brother go. So he came back, and he was like, listen, they'll drop the charges against your brother. They offer you 3 years in prison. You'll plead down, but you're going to have a felony for the rest of your life. I said to him, I can't last 3 days in prison. I'm not built for that. I said, these guys, I said, either I'm going to be someone's girlfriend every fucking day, or if I go and defend myself, they're just going to keep adding time on. Like if someone tries to rape me and I choke them and kill them, like, you know, I'll never get out. If I go in there for one day, I'm never going to get out. So we have to fight. And I feel terrible about my brother. So now I have no assets. So they froze all my assets. I have no way of going to work. I'm working on my father-in-law's fucking truck. And I don't know what to do. My mother already took a mortgage out on her house to help me buy my business in the first place. I took a mortgage out of my house for bail and for legal fees. Like the well is dry. The father's paying me like $150 a day on the truck. So what else can I do to get money? I have nothing else to do. I start gambling.
You go back to gambling.
I had no choice in my mind. I had no choice. I am unhireable now. You know, I have a pending felony. I am on probation. I have a misdemeanor. I'm unhireable. You know, and it broke my heart to a degree because I was so good at what I did. My businesses were booming. Everywhere I worked, you know, it was funny. Right before I got fired, I won District Manager of the Year, like 3 months before. Like, I won District Manager of the Year in this whole entire company while running 3 of my own stores. You know, like I was doing this job part-time and I was better than everybody else there. I always had that work ethic and I was always good at what I did. So I'm like, he's like, then we're going to have to go to trial. He says, understand, they have video evidence. Like, you are going to jail. They have you taking the stuff out. And what they did was for months, they sent people into the store. Once the company figured it out, they called the police. The police had detectives coming to my stores for months and buying the stuff. And they're recording it. So they record a transaction, they're buying the stuff, they're bringing it, they're building the case, having the receipt. Many times I was the one behind the register selling it to them. So they had this ironclad case. The only thing that we can do was, you know, my lawyer was a former congressman who served his time, friend of my uncle, who opened up his law practice after becoming a congressman and was trying to use that leverage, but no one was having it. The prosecutor was like, fuck this guy. You know, he got a deal once before. You know, he's a bad guy. He's a fucking thief. Fuck him. The prosecutor hated me. He was very disrespectful to me all the time. You know, when there were times we would meet, it would be my defense attorney, me, the prosecutor, and the DA, and we were talking about a plea deal. Because the guy said, listen, you know, my mother, some of the sad stuff was my mother, my grandmother, my aunt, every day they were coming we went on trial. Like they were calling witnesses and stuff. My mother, my aunt, my grandmother sat in the front every day and they just cried. They cried all you heard was the sniffling in the courtroom and and the whimpering. Like, you know, 3 of the most important people in my life. You know, my aunt who bailed me out, I named my first child after. My mom and my grandma, my patron saint. You know, and I'm just sitting there and I'm saying to myself, like, how did I get here, man? You know, like, I've worked so hard, every job, you know, 100-hour weeks. I kept getting promoted. I kept winning awards. Like, what am I doing here, man? You know, and I can't pay. My mom's taking out more loans to pay the lawyer. My businesses are dead. I start gambling. I said, okay, I'm going to gamble the way I used to. And I was getting the newspaper. Every day I would get up, I go get the newspaper. I would study. I would do all my stuff. I was on fucking fire. I had a shoebox. I had like $40,000 in I couldn't lose. In my closet, I had this money. So we're paying the bills. I don't even mind going on the truck every day. I don't even feel bad. I'm like, you know what? Go on the truck. Oh, you're a fucking loser, you're a piece of shit. You're going to go to jail. Every day you're going to fucking go to jail. I'll finally get my daughter a real fucking husband. I'll get my granddaughter a real father. I can't wait for you to go. Every day I'm like, okay, whatever. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh yeah, Tennessee and the under all fucking day. That's all I cared about. I end up going, but I'm cheating on my wife like crazy. You know, our relationship is just non-existent. We're just coexisting. Cheating on with this girl who was a bartender. I end up we go to a bar, just a random bar, just us two in the bar talking to the guy, he's selling the bar. And he has tax problems, tells us all this stuff. And what are you selling the bar for? It's like, oh, $125,000. And so sitting around, I'm like, you know, I got this money. I'm like, I need a job, you know. One thing leads to another. We make a deal on the napkin. I'm going to give him $30,000 now. He owed the IRS $30,000. I'm going to give it $30,000. We did no lawyers, nothing. We just wrote this contract out that I was going to buy the bar from him, put me on a payment plan. I was going to apply for the liquor license. I didn't realize I wasn't going to get it because of my criminal history. long story short, I ended up buying this bar. This girl was super, super pretty. She had a huge following. She was like, I'm going to quit the bar. I'll come work for you. She's bringing all her friends in. With my gambling money, I'm renovating the bar. I put in the kitchen. We're delivering the bar. I changed the name. I have like open mic Mondays. I have guys coming in doing like their raps on Mondays. We have karaoke Thursdays, and the bar is thriving. I'm making all this fucking money on the bar. I don't own it. The other guy still owns it. But we had this deal between us. I'm making my payments to him. Everything's working out. I end up getting all this trouble with the local town. They came in looking for bribes. I didn't know how this shit worked. Basically, you take care of us, we take care of you. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Take care of you. I'm very anti-cop at this phase of my life. And again, not anymore, but when you're a bad guy and you're getting in trouble, you tend to blame everybody else around you but yourself. Like that first cop that pretended to be my friend that got me to sign the confession. I'm like, he manipulated me. He pretended to be my friend and he, tricked me into writing his confession if I never wrote that confession. Because again, I really didn't think I stole that money either. You can see there's something wrong with my brain. Like I committed these two really terrible crimes and I really didn't believe that I did. I really believe that the guy dropped the bag. It's his fault. Fire him. He's negligent. He fired a fucking guy. It was my fault. And I'm trading stuff. But meanwhile, my life is falling apart now. So now I'm running the bar. I tell these guys to go fuck themselves. They come in. They shut us down. They're doing raids on us constantly. They're sending in underage people that they, from the neighborhood that, to shut me down, to get me in trouble, to pay me fines. So now I'm on trial for this other thing. I'm still on probation for this other thing. Now my bar's getting shut down. I end up getting arrested. The cops came in. One thing led to another. A fight breaks out in the bar with the cops. These undercover cops are fighting with my workers. I hit the cop. I get arrested. Part of the arrest was I was serving minors. We weren't serving minors. They showed my bouncer one ID, but they were plants. They were plants from these guys. And then the cops come in. They show them their fake ID. So now I'm like, I'm fucked here. I had to get a local lawyer from there. It was in a different state than where I was in trouble. The bar was in Jersey. I'm in trouble in New York. The lawyer kind of gets me out of the bar thing with the underage thing. It was like, they got me tickets. The bar was closed. I had to pay some fines. All that stuff kind of got washed. But the bar was closed for a long period of time, so I lose some income. The sale officially goes through, so I own the bar during this time. The time had passed and all this stuff had happened. So now I own the bar, but I don't own the liquor license because I have the criminal record. So the other guy had to own the liquor license. I had to give him a percentage of ownership. All this crazy shit going on. I start gambling. I turned the bar into a gambling hub for a while. I start taking bets, but no one knows I'm the one taking bets because I end up being down. After I bought the bar and everything else, I ended up being down about $20,000. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck to do. All the guys from the neighborhood, though, from the bar, they would come every morning. They come at night, come on Sundays. They were all betting. I said, hey, I got a guy who's willing to take your action. He pays you on the spot. You don't got to wait till next week. He pays you this, but it was all going to be me. These guys were such bad gamblers. I was listening to their bets all the time. I start taking their bets. They're paying me, thinking I'm bringing the money to somebody else. I have these big mafia guys behind me. Word gets out that I'm taking bets. Police come in again. They start questioning me. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. They shut my bar down, start doing further investigation. As I'm gambling, I got into a point where I was down $100,000 to two different guys. One guy shuts me off. He said, Bob, you got to start paying us. They knew I had the businesses. They know I had all the stuff. So they see my convertible Mercedes. I have 3 stores. They don't know I'm on trial. I have a bar. They think I'm this big millionaire guy with this endless supply. Well, I was losing in the beginning. I was able to pay $5,000, $10,000. Here you go. Take it from the bar. I got to a point where I got too deep. So someone from the bar said, I know another guy. So then I start betting with this guy. I hit a couple bets. I start paying this guy. Next thing you know, I'm down $100,000 to this guy. So I'm down $200,000. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm on trial. I'm like, I am really considering at this point, like, I just got to take a bullet to the brain. These guys are coming after me. The first guy introduces me to a loan shark who I borrowed the money from the loan shark. And I pay $50,000 to this guy, $50,000 to this guy. So I owe this guy 50. I owe this guy 50. I owe the loan shark $100,000. No one is taking my action. My bar is closed. That's it. There was literally nowhere for me to go. Right when this thing happens, and the trial had gone on, I say, for about 7 or 8 months, my lawyer calls me, and he says, they offered me a few deals in the past. I said, I'm not taking any deal that offers jail time. I will fight it. If I'm going to go to jail, I'd rather just get convicted. I'm not going to agree to go to jail for a year. I don't believe it. I'm either going to get killed, raped, or never get out. I'm just not going to do it. I can't do it. They're going to have to convict me. That was my thing. Because they had come back with, we'll drop the charges for your brother, 1 year, plead guilty, have a felony. And even my mother told me to take it. I sat with a lawyer. He says, it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better. He says, like, you've endeared yourself to these guys. They like you for some reason. They see that you kind of, like, you're a bit of an open book. You're very transparent. They don't think you're this crazy criminal, but they have all this evidence. There is a victim. The company you work for is a victim. They owe the victim, they have to go through with this thing. So I said, well, then I'm not taking it. Like, let's keep fucking going. But there's no more money to pay him. And I said, well, you owe me money. Your mom has no money. I said, we'll get there. We'll get there. Just, we come this far. So now all this stuff happened. I owe this guy's money. And the guy calls me and he says, come to my office. So we come there and he says, I was able to reach the people that I needed to reach. He said, no jail time, 8 years probation. They keep all the stuff that you traded them. You're getting any of the stuff back. You don't have to pay any restitution. They're going to consider that restitution. You're going to carry a felony for the rest of your life. I'm like, so what's the charge? He said it's going to be, possession of stolen property. He said, which is what you have, which is what you did. So I said, well, I'm already on probation. He says, I know. So you have 2 years left on that. Then this, 8 years left of probation. So you're going to be on probation for the next 10 years of your life. But you're not going to go to jail. And you don't got to pay any money out of your pocket. You have a restraining order. You can never go in any of the stores ever again. You can't even shop there as a customer, which I did, by the way. Catch me if you can. So that's how that whole thing ended. And he said to me, this is going to take about 4 to 6 weeks for everything. He goes, go find a job now. Because once you get a felony, they're not going to hire you. Like right now, the felony hasn't stuck yet. Went around, couldn't find a job. Felony comes. I'm getting jobs. They're firing me when the background checks are coming back. I start working on the fake IDs. I'm buying fake IDs, from people I meet through the gambling world. I'll just find this guy. So it's funny. I got an ID. Guy had the same name as me, and he was dead. So I used his ID to get the job. And like 3 weeks in, people come to, ask him, like, what's your real name? I said, this is my real name. No, what do you ask me my real name is? Like, the so-and-so is, Bo Joseph is dead. And I show him, so I'm like, oh my God, I'm on probation. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, maybe you meant to mean that guy. And then they turn around, I run out the fire. I said, I'm running. So I have the book talks about, I have like 3 or 4 different stories. Once, I said my dad and I had the same name. I started working under his ID. And there's a funny story where they threw me a 50th birthday party, which I wasn't expecting. I even forgot what my dad's birthday was, but they had my ID and they called me to corporate. I'm like, oh, they figured me out again. I had just gotten caught my last 2 jobs. I go to corporate. There's a surprise. Like, surprise. It was really my dad's birthday. The doors might work his ID. So the book has a lot of those funny stories when I worked on other people's ID for a bunch of years.
How would the tax form work?
It was his problem. My dad's had IRS problems forever.
No, but I'm saying for you, like if you used a fake ID to get a job, don't you need to give them, fill out a tax form?
Fill out the W-4, yeah. I would have a photo ID and a social. So I would fill it all out, and I would get the paycheck would come to the store. No one would ever pay those taxes.
And it was a fake social?
It was a social to match the ID.
Oh, they would give you that when you bought it.
So I did that 2 times. 2 times I had people's IDs and the social match the ID, and then I had my dad's. So my dad's social matched his ID. So the 3 times I worked on the other people's stuff, everything matched. I mean, people never paid their tax. My dad ended up getting in IRS trouble. He had his own problems, but then this ended up adding to his trouble as a result of that. I don't know about the other guys. The one guy was dead, and the other guy, I never even knew who he was.
Tell us about loan sharking, because people are so curious about that.
So what a loan shark is they'll give you the money to pay your debt, but then you owe them money. And what they do is they charge you tax every single week. They charge you a percentage, and nothing ever comes off the top. So the idea is you pay them. So let's just say you borrow $100,000, and they say, okay, you're on 3 points. That means I pay the guy $3,000 a week until I'm able to pay back the 100. So nothing ever happens with the 100. You just pay the money. And that's a big number. Most people borrow like $5,000 from a loan shark. It's not a big deal. You pay them back $150 a week. Most people can do that. That's what I did earlier on. It's a much smaller number. And you pay them every single week. You go meet with them, you pay them, but nothing comes off the top. And usually they don't even let you pay that in installments. They don't want you to pay it off. They want you to keep paying them for the rest of your life. So they come in, hey, I'll give you an extra 100. No, it doesn't work that way. When you can pay back the full thing, you come and you pay us back. And try not paying them back. That's they send people after you. It's a big problem. So we get to that point now in my life where I can't get a job. I'm working on the fake IDs. I owe a couple $100,000 to 3 different mafia families. They know where I live. They're coming to my house. I'm at the bagel store. I got jumped at my bagel store. They beat the shit out of me in bagels. They threw hot chocolate all over me. I got my bagel, my hot chocolate, and they pay your fucking debts. And it's like on the corner of my house. I couldn't go anywhere. I was afraid to leave the house. They were coming to my house. They were going to my mother's house. I owed all these people money. I had no way of paying them.
Wait, tell us this hot chocolate story.
So it's pretty terrible. So I went to the store. I ordered my usual is, 2 scrambled eggs, well done bacon on a roll of butter. I've been getting that my whole life. So I ordered that. I get my Yoo-Hoo, but it was wintertime, so I made myself the hot chocolate. And I get there, I'm at the counter to pay, and I didn't know they just walked right up to me. They smacked the shit out of my hands. I turned around, they punched me in the face, took the hot chocolate, threw it on me, started kicking me on the floor right in the bagel store. Pay your fucking debts, motherfucker. It was terrible. And I never knew who was sending it. None of these guys knew about the other guys. They all thought I was the only one they owed money to. So I ended up having this grand idea because this is about, so I'd say the trial ended, this is like within months the trial ended. I said to myself, okay, I can't get a job. I still had the 3 businesses. They were empty. I was behind on the rent, but I still had them. Like they haven't been able to evict me from them. So I had a girlfriend that I was kind of messing with, that she was a hairdresser above one of the stores. And she used to always tell me how great her credit was, and like she always had a nice car. And I'm like, how do you get all this stuff? You're a fucking hairdresser. Oh, I have perfect credit. And her and I used to fool around a little bit. And so I said, you know what? I didn't really like her at all, but she really liked me. So I ended up reaching out to her and saying, hey, listen, my businesses, I got in some trouble. I could use your help. So we start dating. I'm still married this whole time, but we start dating, form a relationship, and I asked her to co-sign for these vendors to start shipping me merchandise again. I changed all the company names because my other company obviously went out of business. I couldn't pay it. I owed my vendors, my real vendors, I couldn't pay them. Here I am. They took all my shit. I'm on trial. I have no job. So they took me out. So she opened up new accounts. We opened up new companies under her name. She took out new accounts that she was a new company coming in. They start shipping her. So now I open up my 3 stores again. So I'm like, okay, it was like an epiphany. Like, oh yeah, why don't I just do that? So now I'm back in business in my stores. I'm making money. I'm making all my minimum payments. So the loan shark I'm making my payment to. The other 2 guys, I said, I don't know when I'm going to pay you back. I'll pay you a little bit every week. I'm not going anywhere. You can stop fucking beating me up. You can stop doing all this shit. And I'm making all these payments. And for a while, it was working. I ended up, the bar, I solved my problem with the bar. Getting shut down and all this other stuff. I pay all my fines. I opened the bar back up. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of back here. I have my stores are not making the money the way they used to. I don't have any of that seasonal stuff that was really driving the business. I'm not going to do that shit again. So but I'm surviving. I'm breaking even. But the guys start getting a little bit more impatient. They start looking for money. They come to my store. They're like, listen, you can pay more than you're paying me. You're only paying me this. And it was starting to become a problem. Like, they were sending people to the stores. They was threatening me a lot. They were showing up at my house like, bro, you better start paying your debts. So I don't know what to do. I'm kind of getting scared. And then where things kind of came to a head was I start gambling again. I find someone else that's going to take my action. And I ended up winning. I won like a decent amount of money, like $30,000, $40,000. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be okay here. I have that money. I'm making my stuff from here. I'm like, I needed something more. So, sounds so stupid. When I say it back, it's so embarrassing to say it back. But I started painting my face black. I got a dreadlock wig. I put this mask on, and I started going around robbing bodegas at night. I got scared. Like these guys were coming after me. I was afraid. So I went to Newark, New Jersey. I had my gun, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, all right, let's do it. I go in there, motherfucker, give me your fucking money. Scared out of my, no joke, I'm literally blasting Biggie Smalls in the car outside. You know, I know I'm on probation, I have all this stuff. I'm like, if I get caught with this, it's over. Like if the police come, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna, there's no way I'm gonna get a third chance at this. I'm literally blasting Biggie, getting myself worked up. I'm like, come on, you got it. So I went in there, I robbed a couple of bodegas. Came home, the money was so minimal. I'm like, oh my God. And just a crazy rush. I'm sitting there, my heart's pounding, I'm sweating. I'm like, I can't believe I fucking did this. So I went through a phase of that. Then I went through another phase of where I'm like, okay, I remember that party store, which I have a vengeance for these guys. Like they really ruined my life with this. I lost everything. I lost my businesses. My mother's house went in foreclosure. My house went in foreclosure. I really felt like they ruined my life. There was a particular guy who me and him were adversaries at work. And he was the vice president of loss prevention. He streamlined this whole thing to take me down that first time. And it sucks when it's like an enemy. Like if it's just a random guy doing his job, you can live with it. We didn't like each other. We would have like cockfights all the time. And he's the guy who took me down. So that it hurt me. And again, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. I mean, I knew I was doing something wrong. I didn't think I was committing the crime to the level that I really didn't believe that. So I said, okay, I know all those stores. I used to manage them all. I know where they go do their night drops. I know where they're getting $4,000 or $5,000 a day. So I started doing this, because the bodegas, there wasn't much money. You go to a bodega at 2:00 in the morning, I'm getting like $315. There's no money in there. They drop the money at the end of the day. I have just the overnight business. So I said, okay, I'm going to go get these guys back. So I started going to the banks. I know where they would go. I would literally sit there in my car. I know the store closes at this time. The manager would have to go do the night drop at this time. My face black, mask on. I'm sitting there. I'd recognize the person. They used to work for me. They get out of the car. They start walking to and I would run out, fucking tackle them. Shut up, bitch. Shut up. Give me the fucking money. Don't fucking move. I get out, run in my car. I go home, 4,000. And that's how I was paying these guys for a while. 1,000 for you, 1,000 for you, 1,000 for you.
You're crazy for this.
Well, it was desperate. At the time, and everything seemed logical at the time. Like, yeah, of course. You know where these guys go. You know where their money is. You're going to wear them. They're going to be looking for some big black guy with dreads, not some, out of shape, balding white guy, So I thought that there was no way I would ever get caught with this stuff. And so I did that a couple times. And then one time I'm at the place and I see this lady who I don't recognize. And I'm like, wow, she must be like a new hire or something. So I'm waiting. I go, I run, I tackle her. I try to get money. She maces me. And I'm like, I'm screaming. And I'm like, get it, let it go. And like, she's spraying me and I'm trying to cover my face. And like, just not on purpose. Like, this is like one of my things I'm like most regret. I don't have a lot of regrets, believe it or not. Like, because I said, this is kind of how I got here. I'm just flailing and I punch her in the face, not intentionally, but shatter her nose. She passes out. She's on the floor, unconscious, blood coming down her face. She's fucking sitting there. And I'm looking down, like my eyes are burning, I'm rubbing my face. And I scream at her. Like I get down on my knees, I'm like Stone Cold Steve Austin, like in her face, like, why the fuck did you make me do what the fuck is wrong with, and she had 3 deposit bags. So I took the 3 deposit bags and like, I'm still like blurry and she's just fucking sitting there. Her purse is sprawled out on the floor, just literally laying there bleeding from her face. I get in the car, I go home, I count the money. It wasn't even the party store. This poor lady, she was like in a drugstore that just happened to use the same thing. And there was like $20,000 in these bags. So I was like, oh my God. So between that and then I hit my gambling. So that's why I have all this money. I'm like, okay, I'm paying these fucking guys off. Like, this is over. I'm not robbing bodegas. Like I can start fucking, paying these guys off one by one. I'm going to get this one guy who, his name was Manny. I was most afraid of him. He did not fuck around. He was scary. The other guys were threatening you all the time. Manny was sending people. Like Manny didn't give a fuck. There were stories to make you scared, but like there were people that vowed and he was just like killing people and like he was burying people places. Like I believed it. I believed it about him. I didn't want any trouble with him. So I'm going to pay this guy off first. And then the monthly money I'm paying him, the weekly money, I'll start paying this guy. Like I'm right there. So I end up calling him and saying, hey, I got your money. I'm going to come pay you off. When can I come see you? I want to hand deliver it yourself. It's a lot of money. So he told me Friday. It was like a couple days away. So I said, okay. I placed a insane 6-team parlay bet. So when you do a parlay, when you gamble, you win so much more, but you have to win all of them. So if I bet 6 games individually, $100 in. If I win 3 and lose 3, I won 300, I lost 300. I'm even, except for like a little extra you got to pay when you lose. If you do a parlay and you bet 6 teams, you bet $100, you'll win like $10,000. But if you lose just one of them, you can go 5 and 1, you lose your $100. So I did this 6-team parlay. I bet like $3,000 or $4,000, and the fucking thing hit. It was a baseball parlay. I could not believe that I hit this thing. And it was for like, I want to say like $30,000, $40,000. So I reach out, and they didn't pay you to the following week, Thursday. So I said to the guy, I said, listen, keep $5,000, but pay me tomorrow. I'm like, I want to pay this other guy off too. No problem. They keep $5,000. Come tomorrow. We'll give you the money. We'll give you $5,000 less. So I took it. So I called the other guy. I said, listen, my number down to him was about $25,000. I said, hey, I have your money. Let me know when you want it. Okay, come meet me. So now I have 2 guys taken care of. I just have one other guy left who I felt was like I was least concerned about. So I had the 50 for the one guy. I had 25 for another. I had it. There's a chapter in the book called Leather Jacket. I'm at my party store. I had the $50,000 in a fucking envelope, in the inside of my leather jacket pocket around my chair. I'm there with the girl who's upstairs, hairdresser girl. She used to come down, we used to hang out, play with each other, during the day. The guy who I wasn't planning on paying back could ask me for more money. He comes in with 2 guys into the store, and he's like, you're telling me this whole big fucking store, you can only pay me $500 a week? I need more money from you. This is going on for too long. I said, okay, it's coming. We have a deal. Like, honor your deal. Like, the deal is $500 a week. I'm paying you $500. I need more than that. I said, okay, well, how much do you need? What more do you need? As I'm talking to him, his guy's looking around, and he sees the leather jacket. And the money is like literally protruding out the side. Well, the envelope. And he's like, the guy's looking around, so I'm looking at him, so I'm like, oh my God. So the guy starts walking behind the counter. So I said, well, you can't go back there, it's just for us. We can't fucking go back. He goes back there, and he takes out, and it's the fucking brick of cash. So he's like, so he opens it up, and he shows the guy, and like he underhand toss it to the guy, and the guy's like, fuck is this? I said, it's not for you. I owe somebody else something. Oh, he's more important than me? It's not more important than you. He's different than you. I owe him the money long. I owe him the money first. My deal with you is $500 a week. My deal with him, I have to pay him back now. So I don't understand what the problem is. He said, we're even. I said, I owe you 25, that's 50. He said, we're even. I said, you ain't fucking leaving with the money, bro. Like, I'm not letting you fucking leave with the money. So what are you going to fucking do? So I go, his guys come, unmercifully beat the shit out of me in the store. I had a roll-up gate. They pressed it down. The gate comes down. The girl starts crying. They beat her up so bad. She was in the hospital for like a week. Broke her nose. They beat her up so bad. They just kicked. Tiny, tiny little blonde little hairdresser girl. I'm getting fucking stomped on. They go up and down every aisle, throw everything on the floor, rip out my register, rip out my credit card machine, fucking torch the store. They roll the gate up to leave. They smash the front door. They kick the front door, and they leave. And I don't have the other guy's money, the guy that I'm really scared of. So, and it was a disaster. Like, we just fucking laid there. It was god awful, the worst being I ever got in my life. And I'm just sitting there. I got one shot in. I got one shot. I saw the guy coming. I got one shot, and then the rest was over. I'm literally in the fetal position. Just getting kicked and punched, and I hear her scream and cry. I'm like, oh my fucking God.
This sounds like something that would happen in a movie.
Yeah, so I said I want to make a movie. This whole thing was, I never meant to write a book. I had on my laptop for about 20 years this movie scenes with the music, that's going to be playing in the background during these different scenes. Like all these different things there's so much I haven't even talked about. I'm just trying to get through this part of stuff because it applies with the gambling. But there's so many other things that happen along the way that, I've had this document on my computer with just all these movie scenes, chronological order. And, what I envisioned, I even wrote this person is doing this in the scene with I thought I was making a movie. I'm like, at some point, I'm like, everyone who knows me, people who live through it are like, dude, you got to make a movie out of this shit. So I always wrote it down so I wouldn't forget stuff and I wouldn't forget the order that things happened in. And then I ended up just writing the book, about a year ago. But so this whole thing happens, and we're just sitting there, and she's sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, my store's a fucking disaster. And I'm apologizing to her so much. I'm like, you just don't deserve this, man. I'm like, everyone who comes into my life. Like, my mother's fucking gonna lose her house. You know, my poor fucking wife. I cheat on her all the time. When I finally have money, I'm getting $1,000 a night fucking hookers. Like, you know, I was just stupid. Like, you know, I'm getting the boys, and it's like, you know, this Friday's Latin night. We'll get 3 Spanish chicks, and like, literally we're drinking Coronas and playing salsa in the back. And then the next week is Asian night. We're ordering Chinese food. We're getting 3 Chinese girls, and it was just, you know, I was just so terrible, you know. And like, every time I had the money, instead of doing the right thing, you know, I'm buying myself a car, I'm doing something else. It was just terrible.
So what happens to the main loan shark?
So there's a chapter in the book called "This Ends Tonight." So this whole thing happens. I spend a day with the girl. Calm down. I go home. My wife is crying in the room, in the kitchen. I said, "What's the matter?" She hands me a note. She said, you know, our daughter came home with this note today. And it said, "Look how easy this was. Next time she won't come home." So I'm like, "What the fuck is this?" She's like, so my daughter was like, 5th grade-ish. It was like, "Yeah, your friend told me to give this to you." She's like, "Oh, tell Daddy what happened." She's like, "Yeah, your friend came to my school and said, oh, give this to your dad when you see him." So she didn't even know what it was. So I'm like, "Well, what do you look like? You know, what did this guy look like?" She says, "Oh, you know, he looked like you know, like." So I'm like, you know, so I don't know who did this. You know, I don't know. There's 3 different people here. So I'm like, I don't know who that person is. So I'm like, okay. So I tell my wife, I said, "You gotta leave me alone." So I'm literally upstairs in the bathroom mirror, talking to myself for about an hour, just looking in the mirror, saying, okay. You know, I had guns. You know, there were things that had happened. You know, I had other problems. I told you I was taking bets. I had a guy, when I had the bar, a guy wasn't paying his debts. So I told him the guys are coming after him. You know, and he called me, said, "I got the money." I said, "Okay, bring it to my house." He came to his house with like his other mafia connected uncle, came in, pulled a gun on me, and was like, "Oh, I want to meet these guys. Like, there can't be anybody else. I know who the guys are that run that take bets around here. I want to know who your guy is. He's not allowed to be taking bets." I was the guy. So there's a whole part in the book about that, where I had a whole situation with this, with that kid, where, you know, guns were involved. I ended up shooting the guy, not killing him. I shot his uncle. He ran away. He got hit by a car. You know, he was in a crazy fucking. So all these other things happened along the way. So I have all this shit that I had gone through. I'm like, I just can't take it no more. I went and got a life insurance policy. I said, okay, I'm likely going to die, but I'm settling this. I can't imagine that I'm not going to die. So I go, the most they would give me was $300,000. I'm like, you know what? That's what I owe my mother. I owe my mother $125,000 for giving me the thing. I had a $180,000 mortgage on my house. I said, fine, beneficiary, my mother, you know, gets 125, my wife gets 180. I filled everything out. I got this life insurance policy. And, you know, I'm asking them, I said, what can happen for this to not get paid? If I get shot in the face tomorrow, is there like a 30-day window? If there's like, what's the window for you to not have to pay this stuff out? And they were like, you know, listen, once it's signed and it's certified, and they're like, why, are you planning on getting shot in the face tomorrow? I said, no, I just want to know. I want to make sure my wife is okay, my mom is okay. And they said, yeah, the only thing is that you can't kill yourself. Like, if you kill yourself, or if you lied about anything on the application about medications, or if you're really a skydiver and you check this, but other than that, you're fine. So I said to myself, I was okay dying. I was. I said, you know, this poor fucking girl, you know, that got beat up. This wonderful, wonderful girl who used her credit to get me back in business. She just wanted me to like her. She just wanted me to tell her she was pretty. She's laying in her own fucking blood, her face fucking bashed in. You know, my wife, you know, even though she did sleep with my cousin, and I still didn't know who the father was of my son. I just assumed he was mine. I talk about in the book, I actually take him for a DNA test. I won't tell you what happened. I'll give these guys something to read the book for. I'm giving so much. But I didn't know if he was my kid. I ended up taking him for a DNA test. I just couldn't take it anymore. And that's it. Wait till you see how that worked out.
So the loan shark.
So, yeah, so all this happens. I made the chapter called "This Ends Tonight." I go, I visit all 3 of them. The one guy's paid in full, so, you know, he's okay. I go to the other ones where his son worked. His son worked in the mall. His son was at work. I go in, beat the fuck out of his son in the mall. We're fighting. We go through the window. I scratch his fucking face with the fuck. I beat the fuck. I said, you tell him. I said, tell your dad next time you don't fucking come home. I said, tell your dad the B train said you don't come home next time. Beat the fuck out of this kid. Then I got to go see the other guy, the guy I was totally afraid of, the guy who I told I had the money and now I don't have the money for. So he had this bad part. People are going to not like me after this. I'm sorry, but it's what I did, and I'm not hiding from it anymore. So I go to his house. He had this fucking pit bull in his front yard always. Slept outside, lived outside. Came in, popped the pit bull. I had the dog is there to kill you. Like, it was me or the dog, you know. But I was convinced this was the guy. Shoot the fucking dog. Go into the house, middle of the fucking night. I have a gun and a baseball bat. Go into his daughter's room. I take the fucking daughter. I'm screaming, Manny, Manny. I got fucking. Wife comes in screaming, crying. I had the fucking gun. And I said to him, we're playing with daughters? Are we playing with daughters? And he's like, Bo, put the fucking gun down. I said, are we playing with daughters? Is that what we're doing? That's what this is now? Is that what we're doing? Daughter's crying, wife screaming. Manny's a very calm guy. He said, Bo, put the fucking gun down. I'm going to fucking kill you. Let's talk about this. Give the baby to my wife. Or give my daughter to the wife. So I was scared of him. Even holding a gun, I was scared of him. Took it. I gave the daughter to the wife. And so Manny says, come inside. We sit down. He said, what the fuck are you doing in my house? What the fuck are you doing? I said, Manny, I know you sent someone to my daughter's school. I know it was you. So I didn't send anyone to your daughter's school. I said, Manny, I said, I'm not paying you back. I have no more money. It's over. I've gotten beat up enough. Not people trying to kidnap my fucking daughter. I've been paying you monthly payments for years. I have far paid you more than I owed you, like triple from what I actually owed you. You never gave me money. This was never your money. If I say Jets instead of Giants, you're paying me. It's a fucking word. I picked the wrong fucking team a couple times. It's over. It's over. Unless you're going to kill me, it's over. I'm not paying you anything else. I am never walking around without this fucking gun on me, ever. I'm going to go to the bathroom in my house with my dick in one hand and the gun in the other. If you send somebody after, I'm just shooting everyone I don't fucking recognize anymore. I'm not living like this anymore. So he's sitting there and calm down. I said, calm down, calm down. He says, give me a second. I said, you're not leaving. I'm going to come with you. If you're going to try to get a gun and shoot me in the face, he says, come with me. So I came with me. He came out. He had this fucking book of every single thing that everybody has paid him and who owes him what. It was like a regular go-to-school marble notebook, like a regular black and white 69-cent. You know, the guy lives in this big fucking mansion. Goes through the book and adds up everything that I paid him through all the years. He had every fucking payment there. He said, we're good. I said, Manny, are we good, Manny? Like, I don't want a problem. I said, you have this beautiful life. You don't work. Look at your house. You have people showing up at your house all fucking day with envelopes full of money. You don't do nothing. I said, I have nothing. I am better off dead. I would rather die. My mother gets her money. My wife pays off the house. She can get a better husband and a better father for my kids. You have a lot to live for. I need you to tell me. He said, it's over. It's over. I said, okay. I said, the guy you hooked me up with, the loan shark guy, I said, I can't pay him. He said, I'll take care of him. It's over. I said, Manny, I said, it's over. So I said to him, I said, okay. So he says to me, shake hands. So I shake his hand. Still a little, she was thinking that I still not make it out of this guy's house. And I said, Manny, why did you send someone to my daughter's school for? After all this shit, all these years, why would you do that? He said, I didn't send anybody to the school. He said, I went myself. I said, you went? He said, yeah, I went myself. He said, because you always lie to me. You always tell me you're going to pay me. You never pay me. You always have a story. Oh, I got beat up at my store. I said, I did get beat up at my store. He said, you always have a fucking story. I got fucking sick of it. It's a lot of money. You make me look fucking stupid. He said, but it's over. I said, okay. So then I'm walking out, and I'm like, oh, fuck. I turned, I said, Manny, one more thing. He said, you're not going to like this. And he said, what? I said, I killed your dog. He said, what? I said, man, how am I going to get past your fucking dog? Like, what was I supposed to do? He's like, the fuck out of my house. He said to me, listen, he said this before, I forgot to tell you the part. He said to me, if you tell anybody, by the way, his name's not really Manny. You know, I changed it because I had to deal with him. He said, if you tell anybody about this deal, it's over. He said, you will destroy me. If people know that you got away, because his people knew me. He sent people to beat me up. He sent people to the house. But there were times we were friends. We would watch Monday Night Football at his house. We'd all be betting and stuff. So we had a bit of a relationship for a while, somewhere in between. I said, man, why would I fucking do that? He said, okay, As long as you don't tell anybody, I'm going to tell everybody you came to the house and you paid me off. You came, the money, you're not to be touched. I'm going to tell the other guy, you paid me off. Call it even. We're square. If you go around telling people, oh, I didn't pay, man, you're going to have a fucking promise. You'll never hear from me ever again. And then I'm leaving, and then I'm like, oh, fuck, by the way, I killed your dog. And so we left, and I never heard from any ever again.
So that's how you got out of owing loan sharks money.
The loan sharks and the gambler guys.
Wow.
And I ended up going home. And
hopefully you never gambled again.
No, like I'll do now, like it's different now. When you're betting against loan sharks and bookies, they give you credit. You're betting with money you don't have, you get in these holes. Like now FanDuel and, you can put $100 on a card, and you can bet $25 for different things. It's not a big deal. But I went a very, very, very long time without gambling at all. But I ended up, I'm driving home. I park in front of my house. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, what the fuck, And I go in, and there's a line in the book. I tell my wife, I said, I'm not going to be your shitty husband anymore. I can promise you that. I said, because I'm leaving. It's over. Like, I don't want you. I'm starting my life over. I'm moving back in with my mother. It's over. I'm not doing it anymore. There's a story that I didn't get into in the book. It's a big part of the book, actually, where I had this girlfriend for many years during all this stuff. She really stuck by my side. She was really wonderful. I don't want to give away too much, but she passed away very unexpectedly. Really broke my heart, really ruined me. And she wanted me so badly to leave my wife and start a relationship. I didn't want to leave my kids. I didn't want to be my dad. Like, I'm not leaving my kid. I'm gonna stick this through. And she desperately wanted me to leave. And I really think that if I would have left, she wouldn't have died, because she would have been where she was. The book tells about. I want people to enjoy the book a little bit, but it's a big part of the book, my relationship with her and how she dies. It's pretty tragic, pretty terrible. And then after all this was over, I'm like, you know what? It's just over. I'm just starting over. And I moved back in with my mother, my sister's pink strawberry shortcake bedroom, her pink bed sheets on me. I got a job, minimum wage, 30-something years old, working in a warehouse with handicapped adults, teaching them job skills in a warehouse, making minimum wage. And happiest I ever was in my fucking life. I owed nobody nothing. I wasn't coming home to a miserable fucking wife every day who fucking hated me, and her family hated me. I was back with my mom, who, makes the best pasta and sauce in the world, had a great meal every night. And my mom, I also left out, which again, because there's so much, I got my parents back together. They were gone for 14 years. My dad fell on really hard times. I'm wrapped up with all my bullshit. Someone had to take care of my mom. And I reached out to my dad, one thing led to another. When I had the bar, I brought them both to the bar. I didn't tell either of them they were coming. Locked them in the bar, said, figure it out. And me and my brother went next door. And so my dad's back home at this point now. And they just kind of helped me get back on. I kind of returned the favor from like dropping out of school 15 years earlier. My mom co-signed for a car for me, and, just really helped me get my confidence back up, and would watch the kids on my weekends, and I had the kids so I can work. And I just started again from ground zero at that point, minimum wage. And then, I won a big award for Staten Island. I got very involved in the community, and for all the work I was doing with handicapped kids and adults. I got recognized on the news. I ended up getting a real job where I told them, hi, my name is Bo. I'm a convicted felon. I'm a high school dropout. If that's a deal breaker, I don't want to waste your time. Don't waste mine. And I wasn't getting jobs. And in one place, the guy finally said, okay, listen, don't tell nobody that anymore. We don't do background checks here. So, and I ended up getting the job. I got promoted through time, became a vice president, met my beautiful wife there, got remarried, had new kids, ended up, job hopping a bit for better opportunities. Now I'm a COO of a $200 million company, super happily married, great kids, successful at work. Don't owe nobody anything, no problems. The past is in the past, but I ran from it from a long time. I was, I had so much anxiety, hoping people wouldn't find out who I really was. I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I was ashamed because I was set up for success. I wasn't one of these kids who was in a broken home. I was a broken home, but I wasn't getting abused. I wasn't, I had good parents who loved me and loved us. They gave me every opportunity to be successful. I just couldn't get out of my own way. It was bad decision after bad decision, not learning from a mistake and doing it again, and then not learning again and doing it again. And once I got my stuff together, once I, had my wife here, I just, I'm like, oh my God, these guys love this version of me. This guy's so smart. He's so successful. He's such a great husband, such a great dad. And I'm like, I accepted it, felt good for the first time. I was the American loser all this time. I was this piece of shit all this time. But, it felt disingenuous, to be honest with you. So I just started leading with it now. Like, okay, this is who I am and this is what I did and this is who I was. And I'm not that guy anymore. I give back to my community. I am a provider. I try to be a good person. I'm proud of the man I am today. I'm still embarrassed at some of the things I did. There are people I hurt. That hairdresser. That poor girl, man. Oh, her crime was just fucking liking me and buying my bullshit. My ex-wife deserved better. She deserved better. And the worst part for me for her is now she has to sit and watch me now. She has to sit and watch me make this good money with this good job, be successful. I'm writing books. I'm on a podcast. I have this beautiful wife and new family. And she had to deal with that piece of shit, fist fighting her dad, getting fired all the time. And, so she's the one I kind of feel bad for the most. Because not only did she live through the shit, the people who live through the shit I feel terrible for. She lived through the shit, and now the guy who she always thought that I was, the guy she married and the guy whose baby she wanted was this guy. And I just went off the fucking rails, and now she has to watch somebody else have this guy. But...
Now you're a better person, though.
I try to be. Every day I try to do the right thing for the right reasons, and... I'm very lucky, too. I'm very lucky. Many guys wouldn't have survived that first thing. If I didn't have an uncle that had these political connections, I would have been in jail for the first one and maybe never got out. Maybe got killed. Who knows? Maybe had something so tragic happen to me in jail that it changed who I am inside. You see that happen all the time. And then the second one, to have to get away from again, to go on trial and literally win the trial with all that stuff against you and, get the deal that you were hoping to get and just, give these guys their felony. So... I am very, very, very lucky to even have had the opportunity to turn things around. There are way better guys than me who did way less shit than I did, that didn't even have the opportunity to be a better man. They either got rotten away in jail or something happened to them in jail that changed the course of their life forever. I know how lucky I am. I'm proud that I didn't give up. I'm proud that I kept fighting. I'm proud that I kept getting creative along the way, and I confronted my shit and I dealt with stuff head on and came out the other side. I'm proud of that. I think there are guys who wouldn't have been able to do that either. I think there were guys that would have folded along the way too, and I looked it in the eye and said, "Let's go." So I'm proud of that. It's I'm so conflicted sometimes. Sometimes I see that guy in the mirror. I'm like, "Nice job, bro. You're my dude." And other times I look and say, "What the fuck is wrong with you, man? Where could you be now if you didn't have to carry all this baggage? For long, I still can't get clear at the airport. I can fly first class. I make good money. I have a good job. I still got to wait in a long line because of my background. I wasn't able to vote for so long. They just changed some of that stuff, but I wasn't able to vote. There were times where I wanted to volunteer for things at my kid's school, and they would run a background check because they have to. And oh, sorry, sir. So I have to live with that. It still cost me opportunities. It's cost me lots of jobs and stuff. But I did it to myself. There's no one to blame. I'm not a victim. It's not like, oh man, poor me, For years, I blamed the cop. I blamed my dad. If you never fucking left, I probably would have got some scholarship to some Ivy League fucking school. I'd be the CEO of some big company right now. I felt that way for a very long time, from 15 to 20. The cop that tricked me, the guy's doing his job. The guy's actually very good at his job. Here I am. I should be glad I have people like that protecting society from knuckleheads like me. So it took me a long time to, one of the things I teach my guys that work, I have 1,500 people who work for me now. And, one of the things I teach them, and maybe someone listening to this can help them, I don't know. Even when you're wronged in life, even when something happens to you that you just got so unlucky, if you trace everything back to its root cause, you can always find something that you could have or should have done differently. Always, no matter what it is. And once I came to that realization, it's not the cop's fault. It's not my dad's fault for leaving. It's not my mom's fault. I blamed my girlfriend's father. Why would this guy let me fucking work under a fake ID? Why not sit me down and say, listen, son, stay in school, weather the storm? I blamed all these people for a long period of time. I was this 15-year-old boy. What did I know? The adults in my life failed me. I carried that, and I hated these people. And what was that getting me? where was it getting me, And at the end of the day, when you just have a moment of clarity, none of that stuff, like none of it, was any of their fault. My dad was allowed to fall out of love with my mom. He was allowed to be an 18-year-old who got his girlfriend pregnant, who gave it the college fucking try for 14 years and say, I can't do this. He's allowed to fucking do that. He's allowed to do that. That cop is allowed to fucking do his job and trick me into something. I was the idiot, not him. That guy, the guy, that first boss of mine, yeah, he was allowed to help his daughter's boyfriend. He was allowed to do that. And, I held so much animosity for these people. So I was having anxiety attacks. Like I couldn't breathe. I was passing out. I was so damaged, And then I get over that part. I forgive everybody because they didn't deserve, they didn't even need forgiveness. I fucked up, not them. Then I went through my self-loathing phase. Like, oh, so you fucked it up. I should have been mad at you for all these years. And I went through that for a long time. Like, I'm such a piece of shit. I hate the guy I saw in the mirror. I was so embarrassed of myself. I ruined my family name, my kids. My kids got to grow up with my last name. I disgraced it, these poor fucking kids. So I went through that phase. Then you come out the other side and it's like, okay, you know what, man? When you think that everybody has control over you, you're helpless. You're helpless. So my life is determined. My success or failure depends on this guy's decision. It's not true. You have every fucking decision you have, you can have control over. And that's so liberating. It's so liberating that every time you make a mistake, you're like, okay, where did you fuck up? Go back. Oh, yeah, you fucked up right there, didn't you? Okay, so when that happens again, what are you going to do differently? I'm probably going to do this. Okay, great. I'm not mad. I don't feel like shit. I don't think less of myself. Okay, I learned something. I can move on. So that is really what came out of all this for me, is just really, and I don't want to use bad examples, but like no matter what someone is going through, like that, I didn't realize that gambling was as much of an addiction as it was. Like when I was up, money, and I'm just sitting there, I'm betting on women's college volleyball at 2 a.m, West Coast, USC versus UCLA. What the fuck am I doing? But I have to pay this guy somehow, So, but, really nothing is anybody else's fault, no matter what they're doing to you. When you find a way to blame yourself, you empower yourself to solve the problem and move on from it. And that's really where I got to now. And that's what helped me, I think, live the life I live now,
Well, Bo, I appreciate you coming on the show today, man.
Appreciate you giving me the opportunity, man. I know it's probably went on a lot longer than you thought.
No, you're good, man.
It's a roller coaster story. I get it. And again, thank you for letting me talk about the book. The B Train and American Loser comes out today. There's a lot in there. I think that, I think if someone listens to it or buys the book, I think they'll be happy that they did. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about that.
Of course.